They thought I was a ghost for 17 years, a name whispered in history books. Then the universe decided it was done with me and puked me back onto the pavement. 17 years rotting in a pitch-black void. No sunlight, no voices, and definitely no human touch. I see a girl on a poster and my heart nearly stops. It has been a lifetime. Everything went to hell the second that dimensional scar ripped across the sky. Hell spilled out of that crack. As the world's heavy hitter, I dragged 7 elite killers straight into a literal meat grinder to stop it. We reached the core of that nightmare, but the whole damn ceiling started collapsing, ready to bury those freaks and us along with them. I stayed behind. One choice, made in a heartbeat. One man against 100,000 screaming demons. That final stand was the only reason humanity did not get wiped off the map. The 7 guys who actually made it out alive were treated like living deities by the survivors. Since I was dead, they turned my name into a fairy tale. 17 years vanished while I was staring into the dark. With the monsters gone, heroes became nothing more than flashy gladiators fighting for TV ratings and national pride. But the country that raised us? The birthplace of legends is currently the laughingstock of the professional circuit. The stands are howling for blood while Coach Baek Ji-ho, a kid I practically raised, looks like he is about to have a stroke. 3 straight embarrassments on his record. Honestly, if I were in the crowd, I would be throwing trash at him too. Besides Bihan, the rest of the team is pure garbage. Is this really all that is left of our legacy? Looking at these soft new recruits, Ji-ho just feels empty. These kids have zero spine and even less heart. He is ready to throw in the towel and quit. He cannot stand watching his reputation burn in this dumpster fire. Then the president rings him up. He expects the pink slip, but the voice on the other end makes his blood run cold. Right above the park where they built a statue of me, the sky begins to shatter like glass. I drop out of the clouds, slamming into the concrete like a fallen star right at the feet of my own memorial. It is me, Seo Mun Yeop, the ghost who finally came home. I open my eyes and watch the world lose its collective mind. I actually survived. Waking up in a sterile hospital bed and hearing that nearly 2 decades are just gone is a total mind trip. It felt like 2 days in that pit. How did the world get so old? Then the real disaster hits me. My accounts are drained, my cars are gone, and my house is history. Everyone figured I was worm food. My 50 billion won in savings? Flushed away into some charity fund for orphans. My old place is a museum now. I am still in my prime, even though the calendar says I should be 47. Guess that cosmic void doubled as a high-tech fountain of youth. The press is outside, circling like sharks. The moment the nurse turns her back, I start checking my own hood. I blink and activate the analysis eye. That glowing heads-up display is the reason I reigned as the strongest man alive. I can read every stat, sniff out every weakness, and see exactly how much untapped power someone is sitting on. That cheat code made me a god 17 years ago. It is also how I found a scrawny kid with real potential. That scrawny kid was Baek Ji-ho, the man the world now calls one of the legendary 7. I check my own numbers and nearly choke. My willpower is sitting at 110, and I have some strange new perk. I am literally immune to dying from physical trauma. Maybe that final blast in the pit rewrote my DNA. A sharp knock interrupts my thoughts. Yeop? Are you really in there? I grin at the soft, graying man standing in the doorway. You let yourself go, Ji-ho. We step out to the roof. He fills me in. He is the head coach for the national team, trying to turn these soft kids into actual weapons. Apparently, the entire planet is now obsessed with a high-stakes blood sport called warfire. It is basically virtual reality combat where nations settle their political beefs in a digital dungeon. Since the actual monsters were exterminated, they needed a new way to weaponize all that energy, a game with everything on the line. I watch the highlights and cannot help but yawn. To me, it looks like a bunch of toddlers playing a pathetic game of tag. I play along and ask him where our flag stands in the global rankings for this little sport. Ji-ho starts pouring sweat and looks at his shoes. My patience snaps. I asked you a question. Are you deaf? We used to be the apex predators. We should be running this playground. Ji-ho just winces like a beaten dog. We are in dead last place, he whispers. On the way out, I spot a stunning woman on a massive screen. Yeah, I am home. Ji-ho catches my gaze. That is my daughter, Yeop, right. 17 years. Damn, life moves fast. Ji-ho spent the entire drive home obsessed with warfire, oblivious to our country's pathetic global ranking. Truthfully, I didn't give a damn. It just looked like another expensive toy for the ultra-wealthy. I reminded him he'd already done me a solid by not calling the police, then trailed him home. Walking through his front door felt like getting slapped by a wave of nauseatingly perfect family life. I stood there wondering where a violent relic like me fits into a world trading blood for luxury. The following days were a blur as I mainlined nearly 17 years of television I'd missed. Ji-ho was hitting his breaking point though, since the vultures in the media were surrounding his place. I finally decided to feed the beast just to get those reporters off our backs. The press room was electric 24 hours later, everyone hoping to watch the cringe king humiliate himself. If there is one thing I have mastered, It is causing absolute chaos. I shut them up with a look until some chrome dome gathered the courage to ask about my future. I flat out told him absolutely not, and when he insulted my courage, I mocked his disappearing hair. The entire place went completely ballistic. I was nearly at the exit when a four-eyed reporter barked one final question. He mentioned some arrogant punk named Gerald who mocked my generation, looking for a reaction. I just blinked. Who is this Gerald kid anyway? Is he actually a big deal now? He rattled off the names of the current icons, Nathan, Roy, and Daniel, the so-called legends. Supposedly, this Gerald guy is a middle-tier player at best, which honestly just gave me a massive migraine. If he can't even stand next to the best, he should really learn to shut his mouth. I said if he keeps talking trash, I will personally end him, and that clip blew up instantly. Gerald was triggered enough to fly in immediately, but he started bullying the local squad since I was off limits. Jiho was sobbing when he finally called me. He tried to guilt me for the drama I caused, but I didn't care. I wasn't letting anything ruin my binge-watching session until a realization hit me. I wondered if Haeyeon was stuck in that mess, and naturally, she showed up right then. She heard her favorite uncle was finally home and rushed over, turning into a total fangirl immediately. She practically knocked me over, and I smiled, seeing that the tiny kid I remembered was gone. She plopped down beside me like a child and asked if I was entering the big competition. She pretended she was just visiting, but then she started begging me to go professional again. I gestured at the television, claiming I had critical viewing to finish, causing her to sulk. She whined that I used to spoil her, but I told her only her stature had changed. Once the guilt trip flopped, she pleaded for me to just witness her formal performance evaluation. I am a sucker for her puppy dog eyes, so we ended up at the Transcendent Association headquarters. As she climbed into that virtual capsule, I realized how combat has evolved into a sterile game. Everything was computer-generated beasts and artificial blades, and I just gave her a bored look afterward. I told her she was decent for a beginner, which made her challenge me to beat her score. I explained that I am not a gamer, but she insisted I just take the damn test. She used the fact she'd never seen me fight against me, so I eventually gave in. The techs hooked me up to the machine so I could see what the fuss was about. The system connected, and I entered a digital abyss that felt hauntingly like the real dungeons I knew. I instructed the operator to give me the hardest challenge possible, and he complied. A one-eyed Sarbon appeared, supposedly the deadliest monster in their system. The technician told Hyun the real bet was how many seconds I could survive. The beast lunged with incredible speed, but I just tossed the fake sword away as useless junk. I simply lifted a single finger and flicked the air, causing the entire program to explode. Gone. The monster vanished in a heartbeat, leaving my niece and the crew staring at nothing, their mouths hanging wide open. Hyun knew I was a powerhouse, but this was god-tier performance. I just gave a half-hearted shrug, no use making a scene. I gestured for a fresh mark. I had a theory to prove. A new terror shimmered into existence. Suddenly, a voice sliced through the digital hum. King of the Hill? A petty lizard shouldn't satisfy a man like you. I was searching the shadows for the source when the system's emergency light started screaming in deep red. Warning. Perimeter breached. Someone was burning their way through the firewall from the outside. A guy clad in heavy plate armor burst into the fray. You practically begged me to find you, he growled. It was Gerald, the mark I'd baited. I kept my mouth shut while he ranted. Nothing rattles a man like him quite like stone-cold silence. He lunged. His heavy axe was a blur aimed right at my neck, but it ended up biting nothing but thin air. He stumbled, looking completely turned around. I leaned in, my voice a ghost in his ear. Did you honestly think I was the one running away? I've been starving for a real scrap. You aren't going anywhere now. Haeyeon and the techs just watched from the sidelines, totally clueless. Why would a top-tier expat risk a massive diplomatic fallout just to hack into a private simulation? Simple math. Lim, the president of the association, was pulling the strings. Jiho was just his accomplice. They wanted to lure me into their petty little skirmish. Too bad for them, I'd already downloaded Gerald's entire rhythm. I needed to see under the hood, so I fired up my analysis eye to peer through the code. The guy was an absolute beast. Every attribute besides his speed was north of 80%. Power and grit were maxed out at 100. A walking fortress of a man. Had I run into him 17 years back, he'd have been my first pick for the final push. My mind drifted back to that bizarre talent that manifested while I was rotting in the hospital. I'd planned on testing it out on some digital trash, but this guy, he was a much more durable punching bag. I gripped my hilt and surged forward. Gerald smirked, thinking he had me pegged, then his face drained of all color. I didn't flinch or even attempt to sidestep. I just stood my ground and gave him a cold, sharp smile. Welcome to a different weight class, I muttered. The blade connected, slamming me deep into the floorboards. In the observation booth, the air went dead. Nobody knew if I was putting on a show or dying. Even Gerald looked shaken. I didn't give a single inch. I welcomed the impact. Then, from the center of the crater, I let out a low crackle of lightning. He watched, paralyzed with fear. I stepped out of the dust cloud without a single scratch on my skin. A fresh trick I brought back from the other side, something I like to call undying. Total physical immunity and instant recovery. I caught him staring at his own trembling hands. Works pretty well, doesn't it? He was crumbling right in front of me. How do you kill something that won't break? I'd seen enough, so I told the text to kill the cheat code. He's actually a decent fighter. I didn't want him throwing in the towel because of pure psychological terror. With the invincibility off, I squared up. No more excuses for what happens now. Fight me for real. He kicked a spare blade toward my feet. You're every bit as cocky as the rumors say. Actually, I replied, the stories don't even do me justice. You couldn't even handle those 3 behemoths, and yet you're coming for me? That's either sheer guts or a death wish. That was the final nudge his ego couldn't handle. He charged with every ounce of fury he had. I swatted his attack aside like a fly and simply faded away. While he was spinning in circles looking for a ghost, my voice came from the space right behind him. A reverse punch caught him square in the face. His survival instincts flared, and he scrambled back for some breathing room. I was getting bored. I funneled every bit of juice I had left straight into the spear. I let it fly. The weapon shattered the sound barrier with a roar. He braced behind his shield, but the impact sent him flying. I looked down at him while he struggled to one knee. I gave a small grin. That's a wrap. I win. He screamed that I'd missed, that he was still in the fight. I just laughed. I only missed because I wanted to. Consider it a courtesy. Stop your whining, you'll never win a real fight with a shield that massive anyway. He looked at me, baffled. I started coaching him right there in the dirt. Lose the dead weight. Get a smaller buckler so you can actually keep your eyes on the target. You've got the hand speed for it. It would fit your natural style better. He looked at me like I was toxic. You trying to get inside my head? I laughed. Please. I could hand you my entire playbook and you still wouldn't touch me. Outside the simulation, Jiho was absolutely livid. I just can't help but make things difficult, can I? I figured Gerald was just a nuisance, but he ended up nuking my entire world. Classes let out, and I threw a final look at that thug, making sure he knew his debt was due. He agreed to settle up, but only if I signed on for the 14-day tournament. I shut that down immediately. The guy was relentless, swearing he'd cut a check for whatever I wanted if I just gave him a yes. He was ready to sell his soul, while the faces in the crowd outside mirrored my own growing dread. That was the moment Jinte got that predatory glimmer in his eye, the kind that spells certain doom. Before I could even breathe, Jinte had already fed our private talk to every bottom-feeding reporter in town. He put out a statement saying if our squad went undefeated, I'd personally step into the cage. I was just trying to decompress at the house when I saw my own life being sold out on the evening news. My skin crawled. If we hadn't grown up together, I would have burned his whole corporate empire to ash. Jinte pulled the poor me act, putting on a hell of a show about how his hands were tied. He cried about the stakes, but swore the wager only mattered if we caught a clean sweep. One loss, just one single dropped round, and he promised I'd be a ghost to this whole deal. I bit my tongue for the sake of our history, but I laid down the law one last time. The second anyone slips up, I'm gone, and there isn't enough money in the world to bring me back. He shook on it, completely ignoring the fact that our guys are experts at snatching defeat from victory. A quick glance at the analytics confirmed my suspicion. This whole thing was a high-speed collision in progress. I went into hiding, but my face was plastered on every screen in the city, driving me to the brink. I went out to clear my head and found Haeon drilling, her old man breathing down her neck like a hawk. He was screaming about footwork, convinced her only path was being the fast-moving help for the real stars. Watching from the shadows, it hit me that his whole training method was complete and utter garbage. I fired up my bioscanners to look past the sweat and see what her actual potential looked like. She'd hit a ceiling on speed, but her hidden explosive power was light years beyond anything her father ever had. He was trying to build a carbon copy of himself, failing to see the lethal weapon standing right there. Keeping her in a secondary role was a damn sin. So I decided to step out of the dark. I thought to myself, if she is our ace in the hole, we won't land a single punch today. I cut in and told her to stop the pointless running. Her dad got defensive, claiming she needed more. I looked him dead in the eye and told him he was just resurrecting his own glory through her. I turned to the girl and told her to stop being the retriever for a pack that couldn't hunt. You aren't here to set the table? I told her you're here to be the one who ends the conversation. Why rely on mediocre teammates when you can just break things? You need to lean into the heavy iron. I grabbed a blade to show her, winding up before letting loose a strike that could cut the air. The heavy bag tore open like tissue paper, leaving both of them standing there with their jaws on the floor. From here on out, I said, you aren't backing anyone up, you're the one leading the slaughter. I took her under my wing for those 14 days. Meanwhile, Gerald traded his heavy shield for a buckler. The transformation was night and day without that massive weight. His natural lethality finally broke through. His coach was stunned, swearing he'd be dropping the world's heavyweights before the month was out. Gerald only had one question. What was the actual street value of the techniques I had shown him? $10 million, the manager guessed, not even counting the massive pay jump coming next year. Gerald saw me on the monitor and told his people to send 10 million straight to my bank. He called it a teaching fee. I didn't think the big guy had that kind of class. Time up. The arena turned into a powder keg as the two sides finally marched out to begin the bloodbath. I was tucked away in the crowd, heart racing to see if Heian was ready for the carnage. They chose a sun-starved ancient tomb for the battlefield, the crumbling ruins of the Maltaborni Palace. It is a 3-story house of horrors, with a skeletal king waiting to gut anyone past the first gate. The second floor is a graveyard guarded by a knight. The peak belongs to a dragon of bone. Only one law governs this hell: kill or be erased. Hunting beasts or rivals fills the purse. Stacking those bodies is the only way to trigger the maximum payday. We seal ourselves into the tanks. Round 1 begins. Both factions sprint toward the center from opposite poles. Gerald's unit from Nation D operates with the chilling, robotic efficiency of a tactical hit squad. They trade agility for the weight of an iron fortress. In contrast, Nation A relies on nothing but beautiful chaos. We ignore the initial cannon fodder entirely, charging straight for the dark heart of the boss's chamber. Watching his own blood dive into the meat grinder, Jiho offers a silent prayer. This reckless gamble was his idea. It is a kamikaze mission. Yet a win here would create a lead no one could ever touch. Slaying the general triggers a total lockout. Heian's blade finds the skeletal warlord's throat in a heartbeat. The war zone erupts, but the enemy scouts already have our coordinates. Gerald gets the word within 2 seconds. He stops his progress immediately, ordering every unit to collapse on our position and crush us. But Gerald is a slow-moving tank. He screams at a teammate, demanding they use their burst to bridge the gap. Just as Heian lands a heavy blow, Gerald streaks across the sky like a fired mortar shell. He slams into Heian mid-air, a kinetic impact so violent she is instantly deleted from the server. Jiho stares at the screen, frozen. He realizes Gerald was literally launched into orbit by his own teammates' power. Without our queen on the board, we are defenseless. The slaughter is finished before I can even breathe. Heian climbs out of her pod, her eyes vacant and hollow. Despite the elite training, we were still just amateur hour. The doors fly open to the sound of Seemani's freezing voice. He has seen enough of this pathetic performance. He is taking the wheel now, building a strategy specifically designed to bury Gerald in the dirt. Round 2 starts. This time, Nation D breaks apart into 2 specialized surgical strike teams. 6 scouts lock down the high-value territory, while Gerald's executioners hunt for player souls. Nation A throws the strategy guide away, ditching defense to charge ahead as one desperate singular mass. The commentators are lost. Did we just lose our minds? Why go full suicide mode right now? From the darkness, Siam just smirks. Perfect. Follow the plan and the crack in their armor will appear. Sammy's masterwork is a phantom strike. He mastered this digital hellscape back in his glory days. The palace looks like a straight shot, but a forgotten grave of a tunnel runs beneath the main floor. It is a secret artery built for betrayal. Hardly anyone knows the doorway even exists anymore. If this world is built correctly, the path is open. Seo Mun Yeop's commands are the only law we follow. Once we reach the underbelly, we hit both of their teams at once. We are going to break Gerald's legs. He switched to a lighter shield, ruining his defensive stance and making his squad's coverage incredibly sloppy. He hasn't found his footing with the new gear yet. We have to end him before he learns how to use it. Nation D is terrified of losing their pros. Under that pressure, a 2-to-1 pincer will snap them in half. Seaman knows Gerald will break. In the simulation, the enemy scouts are panicking because we have completely vanished. While Heian's team moves through the pitch black, the wall behind an unsuspecting Gerald suddenly shatters into dust. 11 of us pour through the wreckage at the same time, catching them with their guards completely down. Gerald flinches, pulling his shield up, but we aren't looking for him. We are hunting his healers. He manages to gut 3 of our men, but his entire support line is erased in the crossfire. 3 survivors against 8 killers is a death sentence. Heian senses his fear and strikes without a second thought. Soon, only a broken, bleeding Gerald remains. He knows only one man could have planned a hit this perfect. The second the Titan falls, the arena goes wild. No one believed we could actually pull off the impossible. We just wiped 5 professionals. Jiho watches like he's in a dream while Seaman stands there, cold and calm. I told you she would be the one to end him. The total destruction of Nation D is finally over. Taking 5 pro lives is a total miracle. Even if the points are close, it is a massive psychological kill. The cycle of losing is finally broken, all thanks to the ruthless brilliance of Seo Mun Yeop's mind. Within 5 minutes, the footage hits 10 million views. The whole world just watched a god bleed out. Lim caught me out today, asking if I was finally done rotting away. I just glared. Bet's over, Lim. Scram. He laughed that oily laugh, talking pro ball. Some fancy charity gig before the season starts, apparently. He pitched me, already bracing for a no before he finished. I'm not easily swayed, but I shocked us both by saying maybe. The guy lost it. He tried to tackle me in a pathetic hug. I pushed him back, sickened. I'm considering it, not selling my soul. He kept grinning, but that plastic smile made me wonder about his true game. His guilt flickered classic tell before he swore everything was legit. My terms were set. I play, but only on one condition. We drove home. We found Bake Jiho out back, looking completely crushed by life. My rule. Jiho plays too. He scoffed. I'm 48, kid, retired 17 years ago. He feared being a fossil. I just watched the man who used to be God. I vowed to fix him. While talking, I scanned his failing vitals. 17 years of neglect had ruined him. You've turned soft, old-timer, I smirked. Training starts tomorrow, I said. Lim just sat there counting his future cash. I also demanded be-in, the full crew or no deal. A partial legend reunion is corporate gold. Lim grabbed his phone instantly. I need a favor, he muttered. A week later, we hit the combat bureau. Standard drill. I needed a physical scan before hitting the pit. They had to map my power and speed to the digital rig. Routine stuff. Pull a bar, get a score, easy. I pulled 3, have you. 813, 817, 819, nothing special. Agility came next. I glided through the laser grid with muscle memory. Scoreboard hit 971. The text went dead silent. For context, the world record is 107. I was already elite. Still, I felt another gear waiting. I sharpened my mind. Everything snapped into place. I felt ghostly. I hit the track again. I vanished past the line. Is that even human? Someone yelled. Clocked to 107, matching the record. But I was holding back. How did I match him at 97% effort? I retested my strength. I focused hard, putting my whole soul into the pull. 890. That sensation, it was a phantom pain I thought I'd killed. Same desperation from that final, bloody dungeon when I was the lone survivor. When you stare down death and don't flinch, you break human limits. That trauma was powering my muscles. Mystery over. Final test. The focus check. A glowing orb that reacts to your headspace. Years of isolation made this part a joke. I was ready. Touching the glass sent the numbers haywire. The orb turned bruised purple. Tomb-like silence filled the room as my score hit the screen. 1,030. I didn't just win. I annihilated the sport. News exploded. I was in the big charity game. The sharks arrived. Furman, the biggest leech from across the pond, landed with hungry eyes. 15 years ago, he gutted our roster to build his corporate machine. He never caught Jiho. Back then, we were real, and we didn't sell out. I'm not letting this mark slip away again. Furman is just one of many ghosts currently stalking my every move. Europe's most elite cleaner, Jack, has touched down, and those vultures from Nation B, the Morrow brothers, are already circling for the kill. They're hunting Seo Mun Yeop, but then the lethal snap of high heels cuts through the air, forcing every head in the room to pivot. The temperature suddenly hits 0 as Shulan, the youngest living legend, enters the room. Everyone just needs to remember to breathe. I'm merely passing through, but the moment Sean realizes Shulan is standing there, the color completely drains from his face. 17 years ago, Shulan was hailed as a hero because of a terrifying, once-in-a-lifetime talent that defied logic. Born into massive wealth, she lived a shielded life, moving through the world like some untouchable princess who never knew a struggle. Yet back on Sean's old squad, he systematically dismantled her every tactic without an ounce of mercy whenever they competed. Just knowing she's in the building right now sends a lethal, freezing shiver straight through the center of his soul. I can practically smell the looming disaster, so Jiho tells Sean to focus and lock in, because the match is all that matters. Sean just scoffs, claiming that with our big three, we're bulletproof, and the rest of the squad can just hang on for the ride. Then, a ghost from the past in the crowd stops Sean dead in his tracks. It's a kid named Choi Huk. His stats are totally mediocre, but he possesses 2 freakish gifts, laser-like focus and a massive surge of hidden stamina. The kid's power ceiling peaks at 90, and with the right discipline, he'd be an absolute fortress on the front lines. Before that thought even lands, Sean corners him, nearly losing his mind when he finds out Huck thinks he's a brawler. Have you completely and utterly lost your damn mind? You are a natural-born shield playing as a fighter. Do you even grasp your own mechanics? Huck can only stammer in confusion. He assumed his slight frame meant he belonged on a fence, and he mistook his focus skill for a weapon instead of a tool. There it is. This rookie hasn't even caught on to the fact that he's already unlocked his second passive ability. Sean demands a shield and barks at Huck to shut up, strap it to his left arm, and just listen to instructions. Huck looks like he's staring at a phantom, but before he can even open his mouth to offer a protest, Sean's gaze turns to cold iron as he warns him not to push, declaring the kid is now the team's unbreakable wall. Huck looks like a wounded animal, but the arena is already roaring for blood. It's showtime, and it's kill or be killed. Sean scans the field of competitors until his gaze locks onto some blonde kid casually blowing bubbles in the corner. Shim Yong-soo has the raw gift but zero heart, and a gutter-born survivor like Sean absolutely despises a quitter. Soo clearly doesn't have an ounce of respect for Sean's legacy or his legendary reputation either. He's especially bitter after Sean's lecture, wondering why he should listen to some ancient relic who's never even played Warfire. Sean tastes the venom in the air instantly, walks over, and asks the kid if he has some kind of problem. Soo just sneers, calling Sean a total fraud and a walking museum piece who's never actually stepped into the game. "I'm going to bury you," Soo says, and Sean just smiles, thanking the kid for giving him some real motivation. "I'm finally starting to find this game interesting," Sean says as they enter the pods, "and today, you are finished." Even Gerald is watching from the stands as the map loads the spinning caves of Asha, a literal nightmare of circular tunnels. It's 3 lethal combat zones connected by a hidden shaft that drops straight into the pitch-black underground. The place is crawling with spiders, skeletons, and the Sarban beast, but Jiho maps out the strategy with surgical precision. "We're going to clear zone 51 and then immediately sprint for 52 without stopping for air." Meanwhile, Sean is going solo against the floor 5 boss. The moment it falls, the entire zone will seal shut. The rest of the team starts whispering in total shock, wondering if one man can actually take down Sarban alone. Usually, elite squads need 3 pros for that job, but Jiho ignores the noise and moves towards Zone 6. You don't earn the status of a god for nothing. A monster like that is nothing more than a warm-up for him. Moving alongside Jiho, the two of them become a terrifying whirlwind of slaughter that makes the fans lose their minds. It's a legendary reunion with zero friction and total dominance. They cleared the first sector in a heartbeat. The Arachne is a tank, and unless you can find a way to pierce that heavy armor, you're just hitting a wall. Sean strikes with a relentless, blistering tempo that leaves even the most jaded veterans in the stands completely stunned. It's his signature move, the 100-centimeter Thrusta Masterclass, that serves as a haunting memory for Shulin. A basic throw, evolved into a monstrous force of nature by a man who has absolutely everything on the line. My weapon snaps forward like a lightning bolt, and I reel it in before it even travels 100 centimeters. This brutal, high-speed loop of cold steel transforms the monster's reality into pure, unadulterated torment. Executing this maneuver is total madness. It is like trying to snatch a speeding bullet out of mid-air. A single mistake spells certain doom. Shulin watches from the perimeter, whispering that I am still the same old me. While Jiho tries to get the team in formation for the assault, he realizes I have already gone rogue. Troy figures I am just warming up, likely already at the boss, leaving Jiho to groan at my massive ego. Pulling these kinds of reckless moves is my brand. He guides the other 9 forward to sweep Zone 2. Tucked away in the heart of the Zone 3 boss room, I face Saraban with a chilling, confident grin. Sensing danger, the creature bellows and charges, but I dodge its thundering bulk without even breaking a sweat. "Still the same impulsive idiot," I murmur, just as electricity starts crackling across the tip of my blade. Drawing on the raw energy of the Tempest, I put my entire weight behind that single killing strike. That blue steel bites hard into the serpent's gullet, yet the damn thing refuses to simply roll over and die. When the rest of the pack finally arrives, the boss is a shattered mess, totally incapable of mounting a defense. I ran the numbers. Snagging elite kills in this simulation grants the Slayer a massive, permanent power-up. I purposefully saved the killing strike for the fresh recruits so they could reap the rewards and level up. Leaping off the massive corpse, I tracked down Jaeon. A truly devious plan just popped into my head. After the big guy is dead, I recruit Jiho and Haeon to go hunt the losers who ran their mouths. Shim Yong-soo is focused on farming mobs when a flash of white energy barely misses taking his head off. The steel nicks his face, drawing blood. He stops dead, hit by the realization that they are being jumped. There is no way out. Troy's squad has them boxed in, effectively killing any chance they had to flee. I was very clear with Troy. The moment you find them, do not give them an inch to breathe. Keep them occupied. Jiho and I are on the way, and I am preparing to fire Jiho off like a projectile. "Try to stay alive," I shout, before launching Jiho and my weapon straight into the middle of the fray. Shim Yong-soo loses it, thinking he is the mark, and pulls his buddies in tight to absorb the impact. Yet as Jiho approaches, he flickers out of existence, reappearing instantly right behind their defensive front line. Their heavy hitter drops before he can make a sound. The entire unit spins around to focus fire on Jiho. Out of nowhere, Haeon's lash coils around him, pulling him back toward my side across the open air. The second her boots hit the dirt, she disappears again, launching into a high-speed sprint of her own. That entire maneuver lasted only 2.5 seconds. I smirk at the survivors. Your tank is toast. Time to close the show. Outside the sim, the arena crowd is going absolutely wild. Lure them in, take out the leader, and incinerate the rest. This is what it means to be elite. The commentators are speechless as Shim Yong finally understands that he is not even in the same league as me. He is nearly begging for a break. Meanwhile, Troy is holding the line exactly as I commanded him to. It is his debut as the lead man, and the sheer force he is putting out is surprising even himself. But against the national squad, Troy starts to falter. Suddenly, a blinding flash hits the field. One of those idiots gets vaporized on the spot. I stroll into the clearing, grinning. We will handle the rest. A perfect execution. On to the following set. I let Jiho hog the spotlight for the opening game, but for the main event, I am going to demonstrate to every spectator exactly what I am really capable of. The timer hits 0 and Jiho starts barking orders, but I shut him down. I am doing this alone. Worry about yourselves. Jiho is baffled, but I'm finally taking the gloves off for this one. He looks on as I bolt into the distance, praying I do not turn this match into a train wreck. I collide with the initial wave of zombie infantry, carving a path through them without even breaking my stride. I dance through the bloodshed, landing that 100-centimeter blow repeatedly with surgical precision. I have known every inch of this layout for months. I am using the environment to track them down fast. When the opposing side finally spots me, their faces go white. Not even 10 minutes have passed yet. How did he beat us here? That freezing stare is drilling holes right through us. The first half was a total joke, but now the actual nightmare begins. Our leader, Seo Mun, is screaming for a retreat. That monster just smirks while we scatter like panicked sewer rats. Since you guys are being so cooperative, I think I'll take my sweet time. He levels his lance, those burning eyes seeing through every defense. Utter garbage, not even worth a mention. Then, his blade takes flight, impaling my teammate through the spine from behind. One casualty. The rest of us are sprinting for our lives, but he doesn't seem to care. There is absolutely no escaping him. He is hunting every single one of us. The moment we reach the basement, he blinks into existence right in our path. My brain goes totally numb. Hyun is barking at us to close the gaps and tighten our line. We can't let him land another blow. Yet, there he is, strolling casually toward the center of the open floor. Even the commentators have gone quiet. He peers into the dark pit, gauging exactly how fast we were trying to run away. They ought to be hitting the floor about now. Let's see if my trajectory was on point. Raw energy floods the weapon. He hurls it into the abyss like a dragon diving into the shadows. The squad below feels a sudden Arctic draft. Before a single word can be uttered, one of them is run clean through. Hyun is completely stunned. Outside the sim, the announcers are in a state of total disbelief. That is easily the most legendary frag in the entire history of Warfire, complete and utter madness. With 2 guys down, we start turning on each other. Soo, whose nerves were always a mess, is the first to finally snap. He lashes out at the captain, accusing him of being a coward who won't fight. Hyun just tries to talk him down. We are already shorthanded. A suicide charge is pointless, but Soo has completely lost touch with reality. Just drop an explosive and end this. Hyun tells him to keep his cool, but Soo has reached his breaking point. He ignores the command and launches a blast straight at the enemy. The fire rips through the air with a roar. Soo sneers. I knew you were lurking back there. Nothing left of you now but a pile of charcoal. But as the smoke clears, he walks out without a scratch. What a moron. I let you find me on purpose. Before Soo can blink, he lunges and vanishes. I can see Soo's confidence finally starting to crumble into pieces. His ultimate move was brushed off like a fly. In the professional leagues, nobody had ever managed to block his explosives. That single talent was the only reason he made the national roster as the star striker. Hyun spots the opening. He splits us into 2 squads to pin him down, but the Predator just watches our every move. His face is like stone. I expected a real strategy. This is honestly more pathetic than I imagined it would be. He dives right into the middle of us. Recess is over. Every swing of that lance is another funeral. 5 kills. The arena is pinned in silence. An ace in mere minutes. This is exactly what a gaming deity looks like. Shalon is frozen in front of his monitor. He is really back. The king has returned to his throne. Jiho catches the news and rings him up. What is going on? We are heading out to back you up. He just chuckles. Don't bother. I'll be finished before you even arrive. Time to cull the herd. In a flash, he faces the final 6. They stare at him like he is the angel of death. Pure, raw panic takes over. It is over. Hyun orders them to surround him, but a pack of sheep is no match for a starving wolf. He just steamrolls through them with pure, overwhelming power. Soo can only watch in total horror and shock. What kind of demon did we wake up? He watches him walk closer, 1 step at a time, as total despair sets in. What follows is a thrashing that feels like it lasts forever. We exit the pods, and the host rushes toward him. She asks for some pointers for the national team. He just rubs his temple. He honestly has 0 notes. If I had to say something, torch the whole program and start over. She asks if he would ever consider coaching. He gives a faint smirk. That depends on the size of the check. On the way out, Jiho asks if he was serious. He says for the right price maybe, but then he tells Jiho he needs to hand in his resignation. He tells him bluntly that he isn't built for teaching. Jiho is gutted. 11 years together, and it meant nothing. He thought they were peers. But Kasa, another legend, was already a world-class coach. Jiho felt like a total fraud. He feels like a complete failure. He asks if he could at least stay on as a technical coach instead. Same answer. Pay me. But for the sake of the old days, I will give you some advice for free. First, bring Choi Huk in as your tank. Second, use Louis as the secret weapon for one-shot kills. That velocity buff is a total game changer. My first move, pull Chae Yu-hyun off the front line and stash him as a back row support tank. And the final cut? Shim Yong-soo, the vice chairman's pampered little prince, is officially wiped from the roster. Baek Jiho is dragging his feet, not because he's scared of the suits, but because the kid's raw metrics are legitimately elite. I just gave a cold laugh. Who gives a damn about talent when the kid has the mental toughness of a wet paper bag? A teammate like that is a cancer, unless you crack them open and rebuild from nothing. We kept talking until the neon glow of Hotel Henrik's filled the windshield. There is a forced gala following the charity match, and since I am the star of the show, I am stuck playing the part. The ballroom is a shark tank teeming with global scouts. I am barely through the doors before Jack cuts me off. We swap hollow pleasantries. He slides me his card, and he is gone. Then the Bald brothers muscle in. I already know their dark history. They used to move black market hardware out of the dungeons. Bean whispers that they have allegedly gone legitimate. They are running a fight club now with Nathan on the payroll, which explains why they are circling me like starving scavengers. I decided to be blunt. Are you here to sign me or what? The brothers flashed a smile that actually seemed somewhat sincere. Signing the greatest in the world would be the dream, but we are not in the business of strong-arming people. It is actually Bayon we are scouting. We want her on the team. I could not help but let out a dry, cynical chuckle. I will give you this. You have a hell of an eye. But is this just a backdoor play to get to me? Not a chance, they shot back. We made the decision the second we saw her perform today. Period. Though, if you wanted a jersey, we would not exactly complain. I just stared. Their hidden agenda was practically screaming at me. Still, that club might actually give her the space she needs to evolve. I sent them on their way, hoping that was the end of the sales pitches. Baek Hyan and I were about to escape the party for a quiet hand of cards when a voice dragged me back into the mess. I let out a heavy, exhausted sigh. You have got to be kidding me. The man bowed. My apologies. I am Young Min Young, government secretary. Are you familiar with the transcendent merit system? I blinked. I always assumed that program was nothing more than an urban legend. Min Yang explained that it has been running for 17 years. Everyone just figured I was a ghost who was never coming home. They are releasing 17 years of back pay all at once. The final count? 2,568,000,000. Once the gala ended, Lim Jin-tae cornered me, looking like he was about to blow a fuse. You pushed way too hard today. Those national team kids are mentally destroyed. I just gave him a shrug. As the association chief, he should have seen this coming. Sounds like a failure of leadership on your end. I shot back. Inviting me to this match was clearly the biggest mistake of his life. He finally quit dancing around it. Will you take the technical coach position for the national team? He had already drafted a massive salary package, but I just met his gaze with a cold, knowing smirk. My plans were moving in a different direction. With my back pay and savings, I had 16 billion. I was not coaching a club, I was buying one. When I finally made it back to my block, I spotted a woman waiting in the shadows of the street corner. It was Shulin, one of the 7 heroes. A cold sweat broke over me. She was never the type to hide her true intentions. Tell me this is not about some ancient grudge, I muttered. It has been years, but I could not help but feel like I was on a razor's edge. I activated my analysis eye. Her stats were off the charts, and she had mastered a terrifying new tracking ability. She was not the girl I used to know. I walked straight up to her. Are you here for a pound of flesh? She offered a faint, mysterious smile. I am not that petty. I just needed to see you were actually back. Now I have seen enough. Before I could say a word, she turned and vanished into the night. My partner and I just stood there, totally bewildered. Neither of us could make any sense of it. What I did not realize? 17 years ago, she had already given me her heart. But I have always been a lone wolf, not the type to fall for anyone easily. Back at the house, I started digging into club data. Big Jiho saw I was dead serious and told me he would cover the bill if I ran short on capital. He even offered to buy a bone club for me. I stopped him right there. Hold on, what exactly is a bone? He explained the tiers. Bone and B2 are the pro leagues. B7 is smaller and cheaper, but the talent is non-existent. I decided on B2. I am good, but I cannot turn a room full of losers into legends by tomorrow morning. I called Lim Jin-tae to see if any organizations were on the market. He pointed me toward the Hanjin Club. After his tip, I went to watch them play undercover, and that is when I spotted her sitting on the sidelines. Lee Naeon, a complete bench warmer. I was floored. Her agility growth potential was a perfect 100. She has a skill that allows her to leap 20 meters in an instant. I did not blink. 5,100,000,000 later, I owned her. To the rest of the world, I'm certifiable, yet I know the exact path to dragging this crew into the big leagues. Long shadows crawl across the broken asphalt as I enter my decaying gym. The silence is suddenly shattered by a shout. Someone barks a warning for me to leave, right until they realize I'm the one actually funding their paychecks. Pulling him close with a grim smile, I tell him to ditch the formalities and just grind for a double salary next year. My head trainer, Dong Jun, leads the way through hollow halls, counting only 14 measly warm bodies left on our roster. My hands brush the rusted gear as I spot the potential. The equipment is garbage, but the human capital is everything. Inside the lounge, I find myself staring down a girl named Lena who looks like she's awaiting her own execution. Despite her flinching when I speak, I brush off her terror and vow to make her the face of this franchise. With a hitch in her breath, she reminds me she spent her entire career rotting away on the sidelines. I don't even blink at her doubt, simply stating she's about to become an untouchable phantom on the field. She's convinced I've snapped, but I've seen the one thing they all missed, her savage, unteachable speed. Armed and moving at that tempo, she becomes a backfield nightmare, snatching victory right out of the enemy's hands. Once they realize they're the prey and start swinging blindly, she'll already be a mile down the road. She is the itch they can never scratch too fast to ever be pinned down or caged. Using her as a wedge to shatter their defense, she's just the opening move in the grand design I'm building. The moment I mention the national stage, the fire in her eyes looks like it might turn into a scream. I cut her joy short with a cold nod, waving her out to make space for the next candidate. Up next is a skinny kid in thick lenses, though a legendary swordsman hides beneath that fragile exterior. Jihoon has been wasted on defense despite battle metrics that hit a staggering 95 out of 100. Dragging him into the light, I make it clear that his days of cowering behind a shield are officially over. He stares at me like I'm an alien when I announce his move to the vanguard, babbling about his former role. Shocked by the sudden shift, he's silenced when I stake my name on the fact he was born to swing steel. Uncertainty washes over him as he gestures toward the mediocre power and speed stats displayed on the monitor. I bark back, venting my frustration that his numbers are only low because he's been playing it safe for years. Listen, one-trick ponies don't win championships. You need a versatile toolkit that you currently lack. Since he's just a mindless shield bot, I'm shoving a sword into his palm to find his second note. My patience snaps when he asks if he's just some second-rate backup with a knife. I shout to the ceiling, wondering if anyone listens or if I've inherited a goddamn circus of fools. Be a fighter or be homeless. There is no room for delusional pacifists on my payroll. It's a simple choice. Gamble on yourself and change your destiny, or crawl back into the shadows of obscurity. After a heartbeat of tension, he grips my hand with newfound aggression, promising to conquer the front lines. Ordering the coach to find a master bladesman, I tell him to work the rest until their lungs burn. Dongjun looks skeptical, but I tell him to rely on my expertise before heading home to plot our next move. I can't even focus on the television while my brain fires at 1,000,000 miles per hour, worrying Jiho. The second he mentions our pathetic team count, a brilliant and dangerous idea finally flickers on in my skull. Spotting the paparazzi outside, I realize those bottom feeders aren't a headache, they're actually my new marketing department. This is too much free exposure to ignore, so I charge out the front door to face the media circus. I talk to the crowd, acting friendly while promising the story of a lifetime if they scratch my back first. I tell them to blast the message everywhere. I'm recruiting, and I only want the rejects and the forgotten. The thousands of resumes that pour in are absolute trash, leaving me 5 seconds away from torching the whole heap. I keep sifting through the filth until one specific file makes my heart race a low-level courier with a secret. While his stats are laughable, he possesses an impossible combo of gear warping and vision sharing that shouldn't exist. Hauling Sunho in for a chat, my trainer stares at his data like it's some ancient, indecipherable code. He simply can't fathom why I'd let such a mediocre candidate through the front gates. I fire up my thermal scanners and freeze this nobody has 3 elite skills, including the mythical dash. That gift is pure uranium, yet the moron left it off his resume entirely. He's oblivious to his own power. I glanced at Dongjun, wondering if he and Lena were the same age. Dongjun just gave me a blank stare. Ignoring the noise, I fixed a predatory smirk on the courier. Sometimes fate stacks the deck for you in the most bizarre places. Listen, Joe, your history is just small-time deliveries. Why think you belong in the majors with those stats? His knuckles turned white as he clenched his fist, answering with absolute conviction. I look like a 0 on paper, but this game is my only way out. I'm done playing it safe. A wave of respect hit me. I questioned how he managed to haul gear across those massive gaps. He described using pure instinct to track a target's pulse. My heart skipped. We'd found our ace. That isn't just logistics, it's world-class scouting. You're worth far more to me than any spreadsheet could prove. Every elite shadow requires a perfect set of eyes. Together, you and Lena will be the league's nightmare. You two are the foundation now. Let's show everyone the true meaning of a blindside strategy. After 10 weeks of absolute torture, I'd turned those two rejects into the deadliest pair in the circuit. Now comes the reckoning, where every high-stakes bet is settled in the trenches. Moving on my command, Lena became a ghost, tearing through the opposition like a serrated blade. While she flirted with death, Joe stayed hidden, teleporting supplies to her through thin air. With Jihoon covering her, the spectators couldn't even track the carnage. It was tactical perfection. I doubled over laughing at the chaos. Nearby, the opponent's wife looked like she'd seen a poltergeist. You orchestrated all of this. Why won't you throw my husband a bone too? I felt a sharp annoyance. I told him months ago to dump the dead weight, but his ego got in the way. The commentators were losing it. Lena was boxed in, cornered with zero chance of making it out. Joe pinged her a mental escape route. In a flash, she evaporated from their grasp like mist. I'm going gray over here. Somebody put a leash on that little monster. The rivals snapped, abandoning the objective to hunt her down like bloodhounds on a fresh scent. They thought they had her at the precipice. She just gave them that smile, the one that says you're already dead. Suddenly, a massive stone wall materialized behind her, packed with her crew. The broadcast went dead silent. It was an airborne carrier used to drop the entire squad right onto their throats. They spent the whole round chasing a shadow while we mobilized a war machine. It wasn't a match, it was a slaughter. 9-0. Pure destruction. My two nobodies were now the gods of the arena. Amidst the screaming fans, Lena caught my eye. I promised her greatness, and I delivered. I shot her a thumbs up. My blood was pumping. I wasn't about to let this momentum slip. We ran the exact same scheme. Total dominance. The world finally learned to dread our club's name. Our first championship trophy, and the only names in the news were my two stars. The web was exploding. Only a mastermind could turn a couple of washouts into legends. Days later, the veterans tracked me down. Did you really scout those kids on your own? He asked if they'd play for the country. I told him to stop stalling and grab Choi Huck instead. Why isn't he on the starting roster? He just sighed, looking broken. Choi had agreed to play tank, but his manager is a blood-sucking leech. If you can't cover the bill, move aside and let me. 5 consecutive wins followed. My coach was vibrating with adrenaline, acting like the title was already ours. I had to pull him back to earth. That kind of high is lethal. We were still miles from the finish. I told him our only target was a 50% win rate. He looked at me like I was insane. This team had never even touched 31%. He thought I was joking, but my captain saw the truth. 50% was a mountain for us, but the boss doesn't waste breath on empty talk. I might look like a reckless gambler, but every move I make is a calculated strike at the jugular. Now, the time had come for the players to prove they were worth every drop of blood I'd shed. Maintain a 50% win rate or the funding vanishes, he declares. The room erupts before he fades away. But a rot hidden beneath the surface remains. Their entire strategy is a fragile house of cards. If any competitor tracks down Joe Songho, the plan collapses. Elite maneuvers require massive capital. The world loves a winner, but nobody bets on potential. Right as I'm cornered, Bake Jiho buzzes me. Scour the youth leagues. The stars are gone, but some killers are still lurking in the shadows. My heart starts racing immediately. Strap in, kids, I am coming for you right now. Using Jiho's data, I begin the grind across every campus. The reality is a total disaster. Even the 70-point nobodies are signed. I am heading out when a late arrival bolts inside. He looks like another face to overlook. Then we lock eyes, and the entire world freezes. Yoon Byum's stats are trash, but he possesses Shadow Walk. That is a trait for a phantom. Without my unique vision, he would be lost to time. I decide to sign him right there. The kid is trembling. I am a total nobody. Why choose a slow, weak zero with one skill? I stare him down, shattering his nerves. Are you actually questioning my ability to spot greatness? I made Lena Yan and Joe Songho. Jihan was a bottom-tier joke until I rebuilt him. He is still drowning in doubt. I explained that power mirrors the soul and souls can evolve. Give me 3 years. If you quit then, I will pay you 300 million for your time. That figure silences him instantly. He stammers about needing to get permission from his mother first. I seize his arm. Ask what? We head home, and his mom signs him over immediately. With one recruit secured, I hit the road again with absolute fire in my blood. But the landscape is a wasteland. Every school has been stripped bare by the corporate giants. Night falls as I hit the last campus, livid. I find a kid with god-tier power, but he is cold as stone. He claims combat is just a hobby he refuses to take seriously. He wants to be an author sharing hope with others. My fuse is burning dangerously low. Writer gives me an opening. I tell Cho Jang-min I'm the legend who saved humanity 17 years ago. My life is not just a record. It is a brutal, dark epic waiting for a pen. I offer him the dungeon's darkest secrets for his book, but only if he joins my team. That is all it takes. He signs the deal before I can even finish my pitch. My lineup is finally looking like a weapon. As I turn to leave, Cho Jong shouts, He cannot find a single weakness in me. He can read national prose, but I am invisible. Why run a club when you could rule like a god? I cut his sentence short. I have zero interest in squashing bugs. I am already a walking myth. Hearing Choi Hu was snubbed by the national squad sends me to Twin Star Club that afternoon. Security blocks my path, so I give them a 5-second masterclass in violence right there. I stroll through the entrance, eyeing the polished towers of the wealthy corporate elite. Cash really is a hell of a drug. These bastards train in chrome-plated absolute luxury. My crew climbs 500 meters daily. Then, the club manager tries to get in my way. He knows I am a powder keg, so he hides behind polite corporate doublespeak. I do not play games. Why the hell is Cho Hyuk blacklisted from the national squad? He starts sweating. Apparently, Coach Moon refuses to let Hyuk play anything but a tank. He gives a fake grin, claiming it is under control. I blow past him for the coach. The second Moonong spots me, his face drops and he cannot meet my eyes. I am honestly baffled. Do I know you? You look like a ghost from my past. He panics and denies it. But memories of 1993 at the Spirit Temple return. A 200-man legendary raid. I was the 18-year-old phenom leading the entire charge. Moonong was 24 then, hiding behind his age to ignore every order I gave. That 9-hour descent into hell was his fault. I nearly ended him right then. The blood leaves his cheeks now. He realizes his past has finally caught up. Hide behind that facial hair all you want, Cho. Cowards always have the same eyes. A shaky, pathetic smirk crosses his face, hoping I've forgotten. Some things never fade. I'm not looking for a vendetta, but your recent blunder carries a heavy price tag. Surrender Choi Huk immediately, or I'll shred your status in tomorrow's headlines. The coach from Twin Star is out of options. His pathetic counteroffer was a joke. Your bank account is overflowing, yet you're pinching pennies? You're playing with fire, Cho. Is his career worth your life? Right now, your heartbeat sounds incredibly pricey. He looked into the eyes of a monster and slashed 200 million off the deal. After a brief talk, I secured Choi Huk for a mere 50 million. The boy showed up at YSM days later. I went to greet him personally. Welcome home, I said. He gazed at me as if I were his savior. The kid genuinely thinks that with me at the helm, we'll dominate the globe. Yet, one massive hole in the roster was still staring me in the face. With only 18 players, we couldn't even simulate a high-intensity match. B was diving into a foreign tongue. Maybe Country B held the solution. She landed a spot there and begged me to follow. I gave in. New talent and a custom blade? Fine. Let's see what Country B offers. 5 international slots remain. It's time to assemble a legitimate force. Touchdown. The Bald brothers turned our arrival into a full-blown media circus. Lenses everywhere. They were leeching off my reputation to build their brand. I felt like a walking paycheck, but the real nightmare hadn't even started. They smothered me in corporate logos. Every breath I took felt like a commercial. If it weren't for the boy, I would have burned that entire building down. B passed their test and signed for 4 million. She's set for life. That's pocket change to me, but for her, it's a ticket to stardom. I kept my mouth shut, offering nothing but a nod of approval. Then Nathan stepped in one of the 3 giants. The temperature plummeted. I braced for a collision, but his eerie politeness felt like a trap. My analysis showed perfect stats and a duplication ability. He's a battlefield deity. A absolute slaughter engine. No wonder Gerald was crushed so easily. The rumors were true. Some freaks are just hardwired for victory. He was desperate for a scrap but lacked the nerve to initiate. B couldn't look away. I warned her to avoid men that lethal. She admitted her thing for rugged types, then looked at me with total devotion. Her mother saw it, that sudden, chilling realization of what was happening. She views me as a predator. Fine. I had a specialized spear to collect. A retractable staff that blossoms into a laser-sharp edge. Pure high-tech lethality. I've seen everything, but this piece of hardware actually impressed me. They handed over 5. Since the dungeons are closed, these must last forever. Taking them almost felt like theft, until they dropped the real bombshell. Slapping my name on the knockoffs would move millions. They were milking me. You're turning me into a billboard, I spat. They told me to chill. It's not charity. 1.5 million annually just for using my image. I took the $3 million bait, oblivious that I was just helping them tighten the noose around my neck. I signed that contract with a grin, never once bothering to scan the treacherous fine print. Then the blow landed. Clause 2. I am forbidden from ever holstering my weapon, leaving me utterly shocked. I asked why, and they explained that without a professional license, this deal is a total security nightmare. To avoid a massive legal catastrophe, I was forced to register as a pro athlete right then and there. I was backed into a corner, finally realizing those 2 snakes had rigged the game from day one. Sensing my rage, they swore joining the association was a toothless formality with 0 strings attached. They claimed it meant freedom, but I just sighed, feeling the crushing weight of their deception. It changed nothing, but being manipulated by those 2 left a bitter, metallic taste in my mouth. Hayan was ecstatic. Congratulations, you have officially become a fully sponsored professional athlete. She begged me to join her squad so we could spill blood on the same front lines. Nathan stepped up next, eyes burning with a desperate need to test my gear in tomorrow's scrimmage. His thirst for combat was palpable, to which I responded with a thin, predatory smile. You aren't masking that hunger well, kid. Fine. I will see you on the field at sunrise. I arrived at the facility with Hayan the next morning, and my entrance silenced the entire room. Suddenly, a mountain of a man stepped out, completely obstructing my path. I tensed for a collision, but the giant just beamed and begged for my autograph. Kichi Lucasta, their heavy hitter, was acting like a starstruck fanboy, practically trembling with excitement. He vowed to protect Hayan, so I triggered my tactical vision to gauge his true potential. His stats were monstrous, everything over 90 except focus, and he held 3 lethal innate talents. Nathan gets the glory, but this guy is the anchor, easily matching the world's elite warriors. I frowned at his third ability, wondering how a natural killer ended up with such a skill. Is he a closet environmentalist? Nathan walked over to solve the riddle for me. Turns out he runs a forest charity. Nathan was grinning like he'd already won the lottery. He looked almost bashful. My lifelong dream is finally coming true, he admitted. To these kids, I am a myth, the final wall they are all dying to tear down. I vanished 17 years ago. My old brothers in arms have all retired or simply faded into history. But the world never stopped fighting over who was truly the greatest to ever hold a blade. Nathan was the only name in the conversation, but that almost was a slow-acting poison to him. He'd spent a lifetime chasing a shadow, and now he finally had the chance to slay it. Coach Coben arrived then, his presence turning the training floor into a cathedral of silence. After a brief nod, he changed the script. Nathan and I would lead opposing teams in combat. We settled the rosters with a quick game of chance and immediately suited up for war. We entered the simulation, a barren, open arena with no cover and absolutely zero mercy. They didn't want strategy. They wanted a high-speed collision between the old god and the new star. That suited me fine. Let's see if the kid can actually survive a brush with a legend. Technically, it was a team fight, but everyone knew this was a deeply personal duel. The floor cleared. Nathan blurred into motion, his twin blades whistling toward my throat. But I am from a different era of violence. My spear and shield flowed like liquid fire. I parried every unstoppable strike, turning his aggressive momentum into nothing but wasted breath. He retreated and lunged again, desperate to breach my reach and stay in the pocket. He tried to force a blunder, but I was a statue, cold, calculated, and entirely unbothered. Every gap he thought he saw was a door I'd left open to lead him into ruin. After 300 rounds of testing him, I finally leaned in, making the spear feel like lead. If he weren't lightning fast, my first real strike would have ended the match and his ego. My ribs are rattling from my own pulse as Seo Mun Yeop glides toward me like a silent predator. If I miss my opening, his shield will turn my skull into dust. If I swing for the wood, his spear tip hits my throat before I can even blink. I'm stuck in his shadow with nowhere to go. He keeps me at that perfect, lethal distance where any move I make is just a fancy way to die. This guy is the world's baddest man, a human tank with absolutely no weak spots. I have to force my hands to stop shaking. I've got one move left in the bag, a flash of blinding light, and suddenly, my phantom twin is standing right next to me. Something in Simon's expression flickers. Finally, the decoy is out. Over on the sidelines, the coach and the twins look like they've seen a ghost. He has completely shut down my game. In all my years of professional fighting, I've never felt this small. Simon is a product of the trenches, a man who sharpened his skills against real monsters instead of gym rats. Meanwhile, I've spent my life studying the human machine, figuring out exactly where a person snaps. With 4 blades cutting the air, I should be untouchable. No normal human should be able to keep up with this. Both of us rush him hard. I'm waiting for the flinch, the retreat, the look of pure panic every other guy shows. But Simon doesn't move a muscle. Hundreds of strikes fly, but I'm only cutting oxygen. I'm not winning this fight. He's backing off now, but the mess he left behind proves I'm the one losing the war. Even Simon has to respect the speed. I'm sharper than any ghost he's hunted in the dark. In a straight-up duel, his technical skills are just barely enough to keep me from his jugular. But once my phantom double joins in, the math changes. This fight is about to turn into a long-distance race. The longer we keep this up, the more his luck runs dry. He knows he has to bet the whole house on one play. Right in the middle of a trade, he lets his guard down a deadly trap. I'm hungry for the win, so I take the bait. My double surges forward, a clean, brutal hit, and Simon's spear arm hits the ground. The whole place goes dead quiet. His arm is gone. Game over. I won. But then Simon just grins at me. Appreciate the help, Nathan. He knew I'd take the shot. I've been craving this finish for my entire life. After you land the finishing blow, you get cocky for a split second. That tiny window is the only opening he needs. His fist hits like a falling safe. My double vanishes instantly, but I'm not done yet. With the phantom gone, I charge with everything I've got left. My blade stops an inch from his windpipe. A wall of energy stops me cold. Let's call it a draw, he says. My team wins either way. Don't forget, Nathan, this is a team sport. I step out of the simpod drenched in sweat. He just gave me a masterclass. Coben and the twins are stunned he'd trade an arm for a trick. The man is a legend for a reason. Simon just smirks and asks if I want another round. If he gets a look at the tapes, he's going to find a way to dismantle me for good. Coben's eyes light up. When a god offers his wisdom, you don't let him walk away. We go to the lab to find Sana. Simon's special eye starts scanning the gear. Sana looks like a nobody on paper, but he's the brain behind this entire operation. The old ways are dead, Sana says. We don't win on legends or urban myths anymore. We use the enhanced analysis system, the EAS. It logs every pulse and turns a fight into clean data. Every top-tier club is using it now. I see the hunger in Simon's eyes. He doesn't need the help, but his students do. He's thinking about his crew back home. This data could finally kill his competition for good. Still, $3,400,000,000 is a massive price. He hesitates. Then he makes his move. I'll trade my raw fighting data for one of these rigs. The Ball brothers are sold instantly. They're his biggest fans. They've spent years chasing his ghost. Getting his actual data is the score of a lifetime. They shake on it immediately. Simon just smirks at how easy the hustle was. Don't sweat it, he says, splashing water on his face. The next round is the real show. Suddenly, a new power kicks in. Enhancement. Now he can supercharge any skill he has. 10 points to every stat. Simon blinks. Perfection just got a whole lot more dangerous under pressure. I can't quite pinpoint when the shift happened. Maybe it was that last, ragged breath against Nathan when my mental walls finally crumbled. Perhaps my resolve hit 110, but the why didn't matter. This power felt like I'd just cheated death itself. Since my core stats were already maxed out at 100%, pushing past that ceiling basically turned me into a living deity. The timing was surgical. Our second match was looming, so I decided to use him as a whetstone the moment the clock hit 0. Our rematch went off like a powder keg. I poured every drop of energy into making my technical execution absolutely flawless. My mastery blew past the 110 mark as I sent my spear screaming through the air like a high-speed drill. Nathan froze, paralyzed by the sheer speed, but the steel performed a sickening, impossible mid-air curve before he could even blink. It turned his decoy to dust instantly. Nathan just stood there, his brain short-circuiting as he tried to process the physics of that strike. That blade ignored gravity, accelerating and snapping onto a new path. He looked at me, wondering if I'd been sandbagging the whole time. No time for post-game analysis, though. I was already a blur, closing in on him with the cold focus of a predator. He scrambled for breathing room, but my spear hunted him like a missile until he ate dirt. Round 2 was over in seconds. Hooked on the mystery, Nathan begged for another round. I needed a break, but his constant nagging eventually wore me down. Part 3 started with a bang. Nathan didn't hesitate for a heartbeat before pulling out his illusions. He was finally playing for keeps. Opening with clones, respect. I spun my spear, eyes glued to the twin shadows he'd conjured up to mess with my head. I cranked my focus back to 110. Dealing with 4 blades at once felt like a routine I could do in my sleep. I owned the tactical floor, though I had to admit his raw, twitchy speed still gave him a bit of a competitive edge. My eyes flickered toward his teammate on the sidelines, and a dark, twisted bit of inspiration suddenly took root in my mind. If he wanted to play ball, I'd change the rules. If I couldn't catch his body, I'd just shatter his spirit instead. I launched myself high, diving straight into the heart of his crew. I became a cyclone of calculated violence, leaving pure wreckage. It worked. Seeing his friend's drop made him lose it. He charged in blind, oblivious to the 2 spears aimed at his chest. Game over. The third round ended in his total collapse, but I had to respect the kid's incredible ceiling. After 3 brutal sessions, it was obvious Nathan had earned his spot among the elite, top-tier heavy hitters of our world. I finally saw why Gerald never made the cut. The gap between them was huge. Still, I gave Nathan one fair warning. He had to hone that raw power. With the training wrapped, I finally walked away to find some peace and quiet. I was itching to see how this new juice would overhaul the rest of my supernatural toolkit. Upgrading my vision revealed 2 scary new perks: remote spying through digital logs and the power to spot someone's hidden potential. Running a self-scan, I found 2 dormant traits, leadership and strategy, both maxed out at a perfect 100. My past as the 7 Heroes captain finally clicked. Next, I buffed my projectile skills, unlocking a lethal new advantage. I could now recall any thrown blade back to my hand instantly. It was a mental drain, but the tactical payoff was huge. That left only the eternal spark. A chill crawled up my spine as I hesitated, terrified of the price this final evolution demanded. The moment I made contact, my hands dissolved into a glowing mist that began hungry crawling its way over my entire body. Light flooded the room, leaving me as a ghostly, translucent wraith drifting in the air for 120 seconds. I'd become a pure spirit, invulnerable to physical strikes and able to drift through solid walls like they were made of smoke. I stood there, stunned. This was a total game changer. I bolted out of my room, riding a wave of pure, unadulterated freedom. I could phase through solid steel or glide through the clouds. I was a ghost. Then, a familiar foul shadow touched my soul. My focus sharpened instantly. That was the unmistakable rotten stench of the creatures crawling up from the deep dark. I locked onto their coordinates and let out a dark laugh. Those rats were still alive, and that was all I needed to know. I launched my spear like a long-range slug. Direct hit. I felt the impact vibrate through the spirit realm. I'd drawn blood. Before I could finish the job, a bloody warning flashed across my vision. My 120 seconds were almost up. I cursed the world as everything blurred, pulling me violently back into my physical body inside the hotel room. I put my fist through the wall to vent the rage, already planning to shed my skin and hunt them down again. But the trail went cold. Meanwhile, in a dark underground shrine, a masked man looked down at a bleeding servant. Sticking out of the man's ribs was my own spear, a silver warning that someone was watching their every move. The swarm hadn't run, they were just biding their time. Days later, the Ball brothers showed up with a newcomer named Sana. I'd asked for an elite strike team and a pilot who knew their stuff, and it looked like Sana was exactly that. My sensors ripped through his act, exposing Sana's dormant power in the dark. That freakish intensity explained why his basic stats looked so damn average. 3 years as head analyst sharpened my tongue before I questioned my conscience. My squad was trash, but those brutal fight tapes lured him into my trap. Building an empire from a dumpster fire was the last play I had left. He had one condition. I needed 3 games this year to prove my edge was still sharp. Winning was a shadow I couldn't lose. My hunting skills stayed lethal. The current lineup was just a bunch of low-energy nobodies. I craved elite chaos, promising a title within 12 months until he folded. Back home, I shoved the squad straight into the hellfire. Every pulse became data, mapping their struggle onto a cold digital hierarchy. Practice turned clinical, though Santa couldn't grasp why I chose these damaged rejects. He thought I'd lost it, signing a total 0 like Joe Sunho. Everyone else saw the kid as a dead end with no future. Santa saw a risk. I saw the hidden framework of a leader. I dug through stats, finding a strategic mind that the tech missed entirely. After a few more wounds, he'd be the perfect second in command. Sana backed off, leaving me to handle Cho and that sad Yun Bei. Cho had potential, but Yun seemed like a complete waste of space. His talent looked like garbage, but I felt the storm inside him. He hit 69, one nudge and he'd leave his humanity behind. I told Santa to bet on the vision that's never let me down. He started to protest, but I shut him down with one icy look. 17 days in, the scoreboard started proving that I was dead right. The tapes showed my crew of cast-offs morphing into absolute beasts. These chosen misfits had become the unbreakable spine of the whole project. Sana was floored, especially by how much Cho Hook had changed. I found a secret well of stamina that the normal scans ignored. My gut feeling started looking like some kind of twisted divine favor. But Yun Bei was stuck, his mind cracking while he waited to wake. Seeing the rookies blow past him was eating his pride alive. He asked if picking him was my first real screw-up. I told him his growth demanded a heavy price paid in pure sweat. He asked if I was playing with his life. I just laughed. This wasn't some game. His soft heart was becoming a fatal flaw. I hauled him up the mountains to find grit inside the pain. Real strength only clicks when your surroundings match the quiet in your head. To me, that peace is found right in the middle of a slaughter. I've hunted that void since the orphanage, the only spot I felt alive. We've all got demons. Only the brave let them sink their teeth in. I brought him to the pit's edge and shoved him into the dark. I gave him 10 days to drown in his own loser's soul. I took his phone, swearing to kill his career if he quit early. He stared like a dying man, but my lesson was finally sinking in. Am I just a walking train wreck? I sucked in a sharp breath, trying to kill the shakes. If the goat actually sees potential in me, I've got this. I shut my eyes, letting the adrenaline turn into ice. 10 days vanished like smoke. I crawled to the entrance, eyes glued to the monitors on my phone. Jackpot. There it is. I dragged my battered frame out and spotted the concealed lens. I opened my mouth to vent, but his cold tone shut me down. The mid-season start is breathing down your neck. Own it. Master this power, because the next game is your shot as a first stringer. Halftime was over. It was finally go time against the heavy-hitting Knights. The Knights ran a 4-4-3 split immediately. We split into 2 squads, leaving me to haunt the shadows alone. The stadium erupted. No one hits that for a solo. Those creatures are a literal death sentence for a lone wolf. Down on the field, the Knights' main crew was already clashing with the first wave of monsters. Right as they clashed, one arrow hissed through the sticky air. Leah was playing the bait, but these pros weren't suckers. They didn't even flinch. They deployed a tracker with mindsight. They ignored the distraction and started sniffing out our actual position. Target acquired. Someone was pinned behind a rock 1 kilometer away. It had to be him. The four-man squad sprinted for the kill. Lena just watched, wearing a dark, knowing grin. Stage 1, check. They cornered the target, but when the mask slipped, they looked like they'd seen a ghost. Meet Cho-Huk, our unbreakable brick wall tank. Our second team hit them from the flank. They realized the equipment swap was a setup way too late. Jo Song-ho triggered the switch, instantly blinking that heavy plate back to its rightful owner. The tank tossed a bag at the dazed rookies. They caught it on instinct, completely oblivious to the lethal seeds inside. That was the gambit. One team fakes the chase while the others quietly gather the deadly cargo. We bagged the seeds, zipped them through our porter, and let the tank deliver the explosive package personally. The moment that fabric ripped, the seeds inhaled the air and erupted into a violent mess. Thick vines lashed out, pinning the knights in place. Now, we were the ones moving in for the finish. Their reinforcements got the word total wipeout. Their captain barked at them to keep their heads on straight. Kill the monsters and regroup now while the twins hold the line against the swarm. One teammate stood frozen. Annoyed, the captain stomped over after the beasts were dealt with. He shoved the player's shoulder and the body just slumped. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena. Score 1 for me. The twins were floored. What just happened? A shadow was already staining the floor. The actual hunter in the dark was finally set. I locked in the double kill in one heartbeat. I spun toward the twins, but their reflexes were on a whole different level. Stealth was useless now. Coach warned me that a fair fight with my stats was basically a suicide pact. Going head-to-head was a death wish. I pulled my two tools, a crossbow and a jagged short sword. I dove out of the dark with the bow up. Seo watched from the bench with a cold, sharp smile. The crossbow didn't have the distance, but it was surgical and dead-on accurate. Seeing me flip the script in the middle of the fight was exactly what he expected from his rookie. Still, a direct confrontation for a first game was a total nightmare. I just had to keep swinging. There is always an opening if you stay mobile. Fresh out of bolts, I unsheathed my steel and charged. Halfway there, a stray rock caught my boot. I ate dirt while the twins stared in pure disbelief. What kind of clown show is this? Before they could react, I slipped into a crack and disappeared. God, that was pathetic. You just hide in the shadows? Is that your only trick? I stayed silent. He still hadn't figured it out. Perfect. I lunged back out as the twins started seeing red. You little pest. Without your shadow games, you're toast. The sword swung, but I didn't move an inch. The blade buried itself deep in my side. A clean, brutal, direct strike. The twins squinted. Why didn't I dodge the blow? Then, the horrifying truth finally hit them. Every engine eventually stalls, and I would bet he is running on empty. Time to end this. Yunbom is hanging by a thread, but that was all part of the game. I acted helpless just to lure them into the slaughterhouse. This is it. A giant blade screams toward my head, but I pivot, letting it bite deep into the mud. When you swing that heavy, you are committed. I see the terror finally sink into those skinhead freaks. I haven't even hit my limit yet. I was merely trolling them. While they hesitate, I vanish and reappear behind them. My blade is already drawn. Stealth is irrelevant when the whole world is already shrouded in pitch black. Seoyo grins with satisfaction as the finishing blow lands with the precision of a master artist. This victory felt like a handout. If we keep this up, that trophy is practically already ours. Why play small, chasing a world championship now that is a goal worth shedding blood for? Since Santa took over, I haven't spent 1 second worrying about the team's messy back-end details. I was wasting away on the sofa one afternoon when a living myth showed up. Eric Toulon, the legendary axe god. He had tracked me down for a few beers, but some rough waves out at sea held him up. The man literally sniffed out my path until he ended up right at my front door. Seeing his stone-cold expression is a relief. Toulon is a disaster magnet, but he is impossible to kill. Regardless of how dark things get, he always manages to find a way back to the surface. My buddy's wife beams when she spots an old comrade, and we eat until we cannot move. After dinner, Toulon leans over and quietly mentions he has got something unique for me. He fishes a glowing crystal out of his pack, an incredibly rare stone for returning to a dungeon. My pulse skips. These things were common during the Great War, but now, they are artifacts. This is my golden ticket. I can finally go back. Toulon hangs out for 2 days before disappearing again. He says to drop by sometime, but I am already stuffing my bags for a very different journey. Jiho spots me and looks baffled. Leaving already? Returning to my happy place, I respond. I am on my motorcycle before he can protest, tearing through the rugged mountain trails I know so well. It is still hard to fathom that old man was hoarding a priceless relic like that one. This crystal is my ticket to an easy life, all the enchanted gems and loot I stashed decades ago. The mere idea gives me an adrenaline rush. I punch through the undergrowth, scaling the peak with renewed speed. I arrive at the cave, where a giant rock still blocks the entrance. My private treasury is waiting. In the old days, activating a stone without shattering the core spawned a ghost room, a secret, undetectable pocket dimension hidden from everyone. I created this vault for my earnings, I never imagined I would actually taste this air one more time. As the musty dungeon air hits my lungs, that familiar rush of excitement immediately surges through my veins. I attempted the whole normal life thing, but I was kidding myself. My soul belongs in the shadows. Just as I start to relax, a wave of pure malice flickers behind me and then evaporates. I go dead still. This place should be dead. The entrance has not been disturbed for years. Unless I white-knuckle my spear. If those bottom feeders are still lurking, things are about to get fun. Honestly, I am dying for a real scrap to bleed off all this pent-up, frantic energy I have been carrying. I charge toward the central vault. Halfway across the bridge, a searing bolt of light almost decapitates me. I scramble backward, my pulse racing. But when I see what is waiting, my thrill turns to sheer dread. It is a colossal, swollen Zadron. It isn't a dweller, but taking this thing down is going to be a nightmare. Looking at the size of it, the damn thing has likely swallowed every piece of loot I stashed here. These creatures are bottom feeders that eat gold or garbage without a second thought. They are essentially just cattle for the dwellers. They pack pure energy into their bellies, which the inhabitants then harvest like seasonal crops. How did it get in? Did I somehow miss a single spore when I purged this vault? I am normally a perfectionist. I was certain I had incinerated every single inch of this dungeon. I will get my answers from its corpse. The monster strikes, its jagged vines cutting through the air like razor wire. My grip tightens on the heavy bar as I stonewall every frantic lunge. Seizing the opening, I strike. The iron connects like a thunderclap, nailing the shape to the bricks. A sickening crunch sounds and the shadow goes limp. Total silence. This victory feels hollow. Yanking the tool free, I tear into the wall, unleashing decades of suppressed fury. I demolish the sheetrock until my hands bleed. 1 hour later, only ruins remain. I keep a fragment. The panic room door flies open. It is barren, mirroring my bank balance. One mystery lingers. That reinforced floor compartment where I stashed my emergency fortune in gems years back. The combination is untouched. I crank it open, hoping for salvation. But I go numb. The pit is drained, just cold slab. Most saw net worth. I saw my life's blood. Only my ex-associates knew this cache. Did one of those scavengers actually infiltrate my home? A gold link sparkles on the floor. Mine. The brutal truth slams into me like a wrecking ball. That phantom I hunted across town was real. He looped back and bled me dry. I scan the wreckage as the horrific reality finally clicks into place. This vermin was nesting in the insulation, using my own cameras to stalk my every heartbeat. Thick, heavy terror floods the corridor. I spin around. A dark figure bathed in red light emerges. A fractured, crazy laugh escapes my throat. You leeches, I knew you were still breathing. 11 months of playing normal, and I was dying for this. A savage, high-stakes corporate hit. These snakes feed on avarice, and the apex hunter standing there is precisely what I needed. The guy catches my grin and bares his teeth. You sad loser, why return? I let out a soft, predatory chuckle. Loser? What if I told you I gutted your whole company before you even blinked? Does that sting? Honestly, I owe you one. You were the ultimate easy target. You preyed on the helpless, so I hunted you. We profited from your remains. He loses it. He charges with a jagged knife, eyes burning with absolute, lethal spite. I ready my bar, embracing the chaos. The attack rushes me at top speed. A sharp snap rings out as I slip past him. That offshore shell game was a work of art. I circle him like a ghost, mocking his sluggish, panicked lunges. Iron meets ribs and he stumbles, shaking. But the true bombshell has not even dropped. Not a soul knows about the secret book. Not even the board gets a peek. My secret? I watch his soul crumble and smirk. Time for a little reunion. I am the ghost who torched your kingdom 17 years ago. That name freezes his heart. I am his worst nightmare. He snaps like a trapped dog, but I anticipated every move. My iron rips through his guard like wet cardboard. Pivot, hit, go again. I slam the metal home, pinning him to the masonry. I step closer, bored by the simplicity. Total disappointment. I wanted a war, not a walkthrough. I stare him down. He is a nobody. Just a bottom-tier gopher for the sharks upstairs. These punks are just tools, not people. This one was merely a bloodhound for the cash. I grab the iron buried in his chest and give it a turn. Where is the rest of the pack? That lying snake from the top floor. Who is in charge? The big boss. My prisoner coughs up red and glares. You are already a ghost, he gasps. The real power is here to finish the job. The Messiah is coming. He will end you. Suddenly, the dying man yanks a hidden cord. The gas line blows, and the world dissolves into a wall of flame. Through the haze, he lies mangled, barely breathing. Then he sees me standing tall, completely unharmed. His eyes flare with terrifying bliss. Are you the Messiah? Have you finally come? Look at this filth. Brain dead much? Just quit breathing already and end it. I envisioned a sanctuary. Instead, some bottom feeder trashed my life's work. Shackled to my brother's widow forever. Yet, those old myths still haunt me. Prophet delusions? Does some fanatic actually possess ultimate spiritual power? Echoes of those abyss dwellers 17 years ago still ring in my head. If they were so enlightened, why didn't they see their own doom coming? Years ago, I personally shattered every single mana crystal in those pits. Experts estimated 10,000 years to restore their capital's former glory. Honestly, none of that matters. They have simply run out of time. That creature was just a starving phantom. I expected more, honestly. I craved a massacre. Instead, I only tasted that coward's raw terror. Back then, those freaks would call in backup before self-destructing. This one was too weak. Boring. I'm out, wait, a spark in the dark. A shadow creeps in, scanning the floor of corpses with a heavy sigh. Total Zadran waste. But Saman, look at you. Still drawing breath. I'll tear his heart out this time. Then, a white-haired ghost appears. Jiho starts chirping immediately. Just a stroll? Where are my herbs? I give him a hollow look and toss the vial. What's it worth? He goes ghostly pale. A Zadron seed? How? Stashed away, I say. Jiho's sweating bullets now. This thing could level the entire city. 99% of this town are innocents. Like I care. I'll cover the fallout. Name a price. Cults are still hunting this. Just trying to fund their research and pad my bank account. Relax. Jiho just stands there, completely shell-shocked. We need the big boss for this. The World Warfire League wants it. Lena's training is paying off. She's absolutely shattering her rival's spirits. Every move is lethal grace. Her opponents want her dead instantly. Looking at her stats, I feel a rare flicker of pride. I'm never around, yet her tactical progress is completely off the charts. She'll eclipse Nathan. Once she's our icon, the money flows. The crowd only shows up to see her spill some blood. Bomb has no fans. He's a viper, striking only when death is certain. By the time they spot him, the hit is over. He's already gone. YSM takes the season finale. Next stop, the playoffs. Jiho congratulates me, then mentions the league is seizing the seed. I look at him with contempt. You panicked. The league was slow. Thought you'd forgotten. Jiho shifts uncomfortably, looking like a guilty kid. YSM is rolling, but playoff teams are monsters. Can you win? Stop asking. You know I'm taking the crown. Jiho freezes. Got a secret? Just watch. Sana is currently live on air. Host asks for a strategy. Sana just stares down the lens. The trophy is ours. Period. The reporter is stunned by the ego. Sana explains that the owner gave them a guarantee before landing. He pities the competition because I, Salmon, am playing 3 matches. Jiho nearly drops his glasses. Bringing a nuke to a fistfight? Since the boss held the keys to the entire kingdom, we kept our mouths shut and prepared for an easy victory while Sana mapped out the kill zones. Our playoff journey began against ICBC, a top 3 powerhouse that had spent the entire season trying to dismantle our strategy. They'd recruited Hanung Yeop, a specialist with tracking abilities sharp enough to locate a heartbeat in the middle of a cyclone. His combat skills were non-existent, but he could tag 5 separate targets and monitor their vitals from the other side of the world. That's a total death sentence for guys like Yun Bom and Jo Sun Ho. One lock-on and they're basically walking ghosts. With ICBC watching our every move in real time, the situation felt hopeless, but Sam told us to keep our heads in the game. He'd cooked up an experimental strategy specifically for Jo Sun Ho, and before I could even process it, match day had arrived. The internet was absolutely spiraling as the world debated whether Seo Mun Yeop would actually bother showing up to play. Our local league suddenly became the center of the universe when Sam walked out to a roar that made the floorboards tremble. He's completely swallowed by his own fame but doesn't even seem to notice, prompting even our quietest teammate to finally speak his mind. He told the boss to tone down the celebrity status before both teams met at midfield, where the ICBC crew looked absolutely terrified. Pure dread filled their eyes while we just stood there relaxed. Having the owner on the active roster felt like using a literal cheat code. We knew the win was already secured the moment Sam activated his tactical analysis vision as the timer hit 0. Seeing no immediate threats, he watched as Jo Sun Ho scrambled toward the high ground looking for a place to vanish. This time, Joe was carrying high-powered binoculars instead of his usual blade as we charged forward like a storm was at our backs. Everyone moved except for Sean, who just stood at the starting line casually stretching out the tension in his neck. Meanwhile, the 6-person ICBC squad was already busy farming early kills to inflate their stats for the coming fight. They were relying on Hanung's radar to stalk us, hoping to stall the match until they could close the power gap through hunting. In this competitive system, every kill fuels your momentum and spikes your attributes, which is the only real path to victory. If you play that mechanic right, even a weakling can take down a god, so rushing Sam head-on would have been a suicide mission. Knowing this, ICBC ditched their close-range fighters and stacked their entire roster with elite long-distance snipers. Their strategy was simple: track our support players from the darkness and pick them off one by one. But that entire plan relied on us playing defense and them avoiding Sean until they were fully powered up for the kill. Their captain was finally finding his rhythm, his focus meter burning with a terrifying, deep purple glow. Just as they thought they had the upper hand, a streak of silver lightning hissed through the air, aimed directly at the captain's throat. He managed to duck, but Hanung took the blade straight through his chest, and the entire stadium went dead silent. Sean hadn't even stepped out of the starting gate, yet he was racking up kills from miles away as the new strategy took hold. Combining long-range tosses with instant weapon recall meant he could clear the entire map without moving an inch, using Joe as his eyes. Jo Sun-ho acted as the spotter while Sean functioned as the heavy artillery, hurling steel through a perspective he couldn't even see. That kind of synergy is next level, and the guys on the ICBC squad looked like they had just watched a ghost walk by. Their leader screamed for reinforcements, only to realize his second squad had already been wiped out, and he completely lost his nerve. We can't even see the guy, so how are we supposed to fight back? This was the brand new nightmare Simon had built for them. By using Joe's vision to guide his own aim, Sam was landing shots he couldn't even hit during our practice sessions. Calculating wind resistance and bullet drop from that distance is nearly impossible, but he found a rhythm like he was playing cards in the dark. He just instinctively knew where the steel needed to land, and this initial slaughter was just a light appetizer for him. He was absolutely feasting on them, a display of pure genius that left Jiho standing there with his jaw on the floor. Aiming while blind was one thing, but that instant weapon recall looked like something pulled straight out of a horror movie. I've worked beside him for years and never saw that move. The ICBC players were actually starting to break down in tears. They were completely helpless against the phantom spears that seemed to rain down from the sky out of thin air. Sean was even poaching the monsters they were trying to hunt. If it appeared on his screen, it died without exception. The most terrifying part was that he was actually smiling, a sight that finally forced the ICBC captain to order a total retreat. Right as they turned, another spear whistled through the air, forcing the captain to throw up his shield in a final, desperate block. The steel slammed into the dirt, and while they thought they'd survived by a hair, they completely missed the real danger lurking beneath. A shadow rippled outward from the spear caught in the light, and Sean gave the signal for Yun Bei to end it. "Quit hiding in the background," Sean muttered, "because it's finally time you started earning your paycheck today." I let my weapon's darkness drown the light, dragging Yun Beum into my private hell as my squad's energy surged toward the breaking point. The match was already finished. Their total ruin was etched in stone before I even took another step. The siren signaled a complete bloodbath. As I walked toward the exit, the crowd's roar hailed me as the arena's undisputed god. Santa kept chirping about the flashy visuals and the fans, but I only gave her a cold, empty stare. Time to pull the plug on this little show. From here on out, the real nightmare begins. Round 2 dropped us into Thousand Bridge City, a vertical maze of endless spans reaching into a freezing, hollow sky. A single mistake meant falling through a glitch or a total collapse. They call this place the Rookie Crusher for a reason. The moment the timer hit 0, my squad dove headfirst into a meat grinder against a swarm of waiting horrors. Bone spiders wove traps to turn the living into silk-wrapped puppets for their growing legion of the dead. The realism was haunting. I could almost taste the rot from my actual dungeon years crawling up my throat. I surveyed the carnage, told my team to sweep up the trash, and kept all 8 spider bosses for my own entertainment. I prepped my ultimate throw, wedging 8 steel spears between my knuckles before letting both hands fly in a blur. The steel seemed to have its own eyes, hunting for hearts, the air filled with wet thuds and screams. The violence only fed my rush. My own teammates just stood there, paralyzed by the sheer brutality of my work. They wondered if I was even human. In exactly 2 minutes and 30 seconds, every monster on the floor was gone. That kind of pace would ruin the Pro League. I signaled Jo Song-ho to start the final ritual. I ordered him to initiate a focus drain, siphoning his very essence into the rest of our combat unit. Suddenly, a roar split the air. We were cornered. My team panicked as they realized we were trapped on a crumbling bridge. Some blonde punk smirked, ordering his archers to finish us. I found the whole ambush pathetic. I almost respected the sheer stupidity it took to think a basic trap like this would work on a monster like me. I decided we should all take the plunge together. As my rivals froze in shock, I triggered my weapon recall. My discarded spears whistled back to my hands at terminal velocity, shredding anything caught in their return path. Right on cue, the very foundation beneath our boots began to groan and shatter. The floor disintegrated, sending us all screaming into the void. This was my design from the start. I knew every crack in this dungeon. I had already parked my team on the only stable ground left before the drop. My people hit solid stone. The amateurs from the other side landed on nothing but empty air and broken illusions. But watching them fall into the dark wasn't enough to satisfy the hunger gnawing at my gut. I wanted them dead before they reached the bottom. I dove after them like a reaper. 1 strike, 1 soul. 4 lives were snuffed out in 2.5 seconds. The stadium, watching from the outside, went stone-cold silent. People wondered if a human was even capable of this. After my 5th kill, I locked onto the final survivor. I buried my spear in his chest and used his falling body like a surfboard to ride the gravity all the way down, surfing on a dying man for the finale. It was clean. It was effortless. It was the perfect ending. The survivors just gave up. They saw a demon in my eyes, something colder and more dangerous than any mortal man. I rolled over the entire squad with nothing but pure violence. 11 kills in the blink of an eye. Statistics like that were unheard of, even in the World Finals. The crowd's roar was absolutely deafening. They got their money's worth. Lean ran up to me afterward, shaking with pure, uncontained hype. I felt nothing. What is the point of celebrating when you are just crushing ants under your boot? I had dismantled national pros before. Lean just shivered, knowing the other team's spirits were now officially broken. I told Sana I was sitting the next match out. I had already stripped those boys of their will to live. My team could handle the scraps. If they couldn't finish this, we might as well pack up and leave forever. The first playoff series ended in a heartbeat, 3 straight wins, a total dominant massacre. The second series was a carbon copy. I used raw, terrifying power to remind the world who truly rules the peak. Even the billionaire owners were making desperate offers, ready to sell their lives just to sign my contract. Far away in City L, a legend named Emery Casa felt the ground shift beneath him as he watched the feed. He couldn't ignore me anymore, not when the 3 biggest clubs on Earth were finally watching my every move. Spark Club leads the pack, a brutal empire forged by the Bald brothers. Nathan and Key hold the line with a squad of cold-blooded killers. Gerald's mobile hub followed, then Casa's Steel Legion, a heavy-hitting outfit anchored by that absolute monster, Daniel Manns. They gut rivals with clinical efficiency, yet the deepest scars lie between Spark and Steel. That rivalry isn't business, it's a vendetta. The truth is simple. Securing Seo Mun Yeop means guaranteed gold. He is the ultimate championship insurance policy. Casa laid it out for the boss. The old man paled. Trust was there, but Casa and Seo Yeop shared a lifetime of pure venom. 17 years back, they were locked in a constant bloody stalemate. 2 clashing worlds, 2 broken ideologies, just an endless scorched earth war. We just learned how to duck the flying glass. Eventually, the owner looked Casa in the eye and delivered the hard truth. Seope is a feral beast no coach can leash. The boss told Casa to take a walk before he lost his mind. Sure, Steel Legion always takes silver, but we remain elite. We are still one of the most formidable organizations on Earth. Casa wouldn't budge, weaponizing logic until the owner finally snapped. Fine, he spat. What is this going to cost me? Casa was stone. To buy him out from the Bald brothers, you are looking at $180 million, bottom line. The boss nearly died. Do I look like I have $100 million in my pocket? Wake up, he roared. Seo Mun Yeop only committed to 3 games annually, yet here he stands, absolutely crushing every single playoff bracket we face. As head coach, I struggled to stay composed. Sir, could we please try to avoid the spotlight for once? These matches were meant to blood the rookies, but you just scorched the earth instead. What purpose does this even serve? He offered a grim smile, demanding another round. As we bickered, Cho Dong-jun silently flagged us down for something urgent. A flood of transfer offers was suddenly hitting the inbox. Seo Mun just stared, his expression cold and entirely unimpressed. Why mention this? Trash the offers, he snapped. But the boss countered they wanted him specifically for $100 billion. With that kind of money on the table, the math started making sense. Moving Seo Mun Yeop actually seemed logical. That payday builds a powerhouse for the National League. Seo Mun just looked baffled. The National League? He questioned. Shouldn't we be targeting the World Championships instead? I just sighed. Not a prayer in hell, kid. You are a legend here, definitely. But internationally, you won't be dropping 11 solo kills. It is a suicide mission. He tensed up. He wanted to argue, but the truth burned. He has seen the destruction Nathan is capable of. If an opposing squad fielded 11 players like that, he would be history. What if we scouted international talent? He asked. That solves everything, right? I just looked at him blankly. Who would move here for a dumpster fire like this? No home, no car, no salary, they would disappear instantly. All real talent is signed. We would be left with unproven rejects. Let's be real. The skill ceiling in this country is subterranean. There is absolutely zero room for any real growth. Aside from me being trapped in this disaster, there is no reason to stay. Seo Mun finally fell into a grim silence. It seems we are starting over with green recruits. Once the finals ended, he summoned Cho and me to his office. Our core 7-man squad was finally set in stone. He is scouting for mobile tanks, heavy brawlers, and crucially, a dead-eye marksman who never misses a single shot. Leon is dependable, but her output is weak. A true power hitter would finally patch our vulnerabilities and stabilize the entire roster. He pushed a paper across the wood. These were his primary targets for the upcoming winter transfer market window. I reviewed the list. Cho looked over and went rigid. Boss, tell me you are joking. You really want this guy? It was a desperate gamble. The first leg of our scouting trip turned out to be a complete waste of time. Coach Fatty broke the news. One prospect signed with Twin Star, and the other? He has permanently walked away from gaming. His parents left him enough real estate to retire early. Seo Mun just stood there, completely lost for words. We started for the door, but Fatty halted us. He brought up an old student named Young Min. He finished school recently but lost his way. Rumor says he is mixed up with a violent crew. Seo Mun just laughed. Do I look like a social worker? Fatty swore the kid was a pure, natural-born talent. He was an absolute monster in the trenches. Fatty refused to watch that kind of raw potential rot in the streets. Seo Mun hesitated. So you want me to play savior and drag him back to the fight? Fine, he grunted. Lead the way. We eventually found Yang Min in a filthy, smoke-filled gaming den. Fatty was right, the kid's skill was astronomical but totally raw. He had been rotting away in obscurity for way too long. Masking his identity, Seo Mun kept his helmet on while approaching. One of the street punks immediately started talking trash. I watched this joker swagger in like he owned the place. Simon isn't exactly the patient type. He lunges, delivering a surgical strike before anyone can blink. Knives flash as my crew swarms him, but I freeze. I know that look. Stop, I yell. But the fuse is already lit. When the screams finally die down, every last one of my punks is kissing the floor. Simon drops the gear and looms over me. We need to talk. Tucked in the corner, a girl in a white hat has her camera locked on him. Guys, you won't believe this. That freak in the helmet, it is really him. Within seconds, the clip is blowing up on every screen. After letting off some steam with that tactical lesson, Simon actually looks refreshed. My crew, you in? He asks. I don't even look up. I just click start on the next round. I bet on him backing off. It was the worst gamble of my life. After another lesson, he starts dragging me toward the exit until he spots a girl filming us nearby. Delete that video before I lose it, he growls. She just shakes her head. It is live. Simon just stares. Since his return, all this new tech feels like alien sorcery to him. He squints at the screen, watching the comments fly by way too fast to read. Someone tips 1,000-star candies the moment his face hits the feed. The girl starts a victory dance right there. Simon watches, horrified. Is this really what the world has become? He gets a quick 5-second crash course on streaming, then stands tall for the camera lens. This was just a teaching moment for some lost kids. We have reached an understanding, and if any tabloid hack tries to twist this, I will track you down for a private lesson. He waves her off and turns his cold gaze back to me. Why'd you walk away? I flinch. It is a long, messy story. My parents split when I was young. I was raising my grandparents while my old man drank himself into a hole. Simon's patience snaps. I didn't ask for a soap opera. Just get to the point. The truth spills out. I loved the game, but my father's drinking ended with our house in flames. My grandparents barely escaped that house fire alive. I quit to keep them safe, but watching my old rivals go pro is a knife to my gut every day. My voice breaks, but Simon just yanks me up by the collar before I can finish the sob story. Cut the act. You in or out? I gasp. Fine. But you fix my dad first. Make sure he never touches a bottle again, Simon scoffs. You have got guts, kid. Agreement reached. Simon's brand of rehab is, as expected, terrifying. He uses the man's own stash to scare him straight for the rest of his life. The next recruit, Kim Jin-soo, is a dream. A human tank with a martyr complex. His raw power is mid-tier, but his willpower sits at 91%. With 81% speed and 88% stamina, he is the fast shield Simon needs. During the interview, Simon asks what his edge is. I am strong and I don't quit, Jin-soo says. Simon expects a fight, but Jin-soo signs the contract before the ink is even dry. Nobody says no to Simon. If he picks you, you are becoming a legend one way or another. Meanwhile, the manager is scratching his head over a name on the list. He has got baggage, Simon shrugs. But the numbers don't lie. The manager turns pale. You don't get it. There is serious bad blood between him and the boss. The problem is Shim Yong-soo, a man Simon once broke, ruining his career on the national team. Now he is just a bitter shell, wasting away at the bottom of a bottle. He does not know Simon is already closing in, and his olive branch usually involves a punch. You are a washed-up joke, Simon says, but I am offering a fresh start. Join my team. Shim Yong-soo snaps. You think you can just show up and act like God? My life's in ruins because of you. Trusting your lies again? Not a chance. My fist across his teeth says it all. Shut your trap. I hammer him into a trembling, quiet mess on the freezing concrete, broken and pathetic. Play nice, kid. One call to the scouts and your dead-end career gets a second chance at glory. Cut the crap. Back in the trenches, I dealt with monsters way more twisted and cocky than you'll ever be. After I pulled that street rat up, he became the biggest icon this whole nation has ever celebrated. If you want that gold ring to be reality, quit whining and do exactly what I tell you. I toss my card at him and vanish. By dinner, his old man is forcing him into my crew. The brat's stunned. He figured his dad loathed me and my messy history with that guy, Jiho. Weren't they enemies? But his father's gaze is ice. How could I hate the man who saved our lives? It wasn't personal. I just hated seeing a tightenrod under such garbage amateur hour coaching tactics. Truth be told, as a trainer, the guy has zero talent and is basically a complete fraud. If the old pro can pull strings with the national board, I'm in. Plus, he finally grabbed Coach Sana. Sana's a genius no money can buy. The kid's petrified, thinking I'm just waiting for the chance to bury him. Aren't you worried he'll kill me? The boy whispers. His father just lets out a dry, raspy laugh. Even the best hated him, but they still saved the world. I literally died for that cause. You don't get my depth. Join up. By next month, you won't even recognize the man in the mirror. 17 days of hell and only 3 recruits. 2 are total basket cases with massive egos and zero discipline. Sana can't track my logic. He's baffled why I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for these young losers. He sees no spark. Not his fault. The system counts stats, but it can't measure a man's true grit. Numbers don't show a player's ceiling. Just wait. This kid's been wandering in the wilderness for a whole year. He needs room to breathe. Though, I'll admit, our roster is looking dangerously thin and desperate right now. Local talent's tapped out, the pros are taken, and the leftovers are too thick-headed to ever learn. Sana wants to scout abroad. The league lets us import 5 foreigners for the active roster every season. I get home and Haeyeon's finally back. Her brutal training worked. Every single one of her metrics just exploded. Guess those meatheads knew their stuff. Pushing her to the breaking point actually made her something elite. Her tactical brain and leadership are terrifying. She isn't just some player. She's a natural-born commander. Jiho walks in unannounced. My tactical HUD is still on, so I scan his stats with a quick look. 51 leadership, 62 tactics, jokes. No wonder the national team turned into a dumpster fire under him. It all clicks now. I sigh, telling him to relax. He's doing his best with a losing hand. My pity confuses him. Later, over steak, we talk about bringing some fresh, hungry blood onto the team. Jiho mentions country tea for imports. Haeyeon's face practically glows the second she hears that name mentioned. She starts begging to tag along if I'm heading out there to hunt for new prospects. Word is the fighters there worship me. Apparently, 70% of them picked up the spear because of me. That's a hell of an ego boost. I say yes, leaving Jiho looking like he just got gutted. Leaving him behind to travel with his daughter again, Haeyeon tells him to take a chill pill. This time, it's just the 2 of us. We catch a red-eye straight into the heart of country tea. Landing there, I spot a ghost. It's Teamer, an old comrade who bled with me during the war years. He wasn't a top 7 hero, but the guy was easily a top 20 titan in his prime. I wasn't expecting a greeting. He chuckles, saying he caught my flight info on the local morning news. Now he's the big boss of the National League, running the most prestigious club in the entire nation. He hears I'm scouting and demands I see his gym first. I shrug and follow him inside. The moment we hit the door, a flash of silver steel aims directly for my windpipe. I sidestep instantly. A split second later, a lethal shadow lunges at me with some serious, deadly speed. I dodge a flurry of strikes to get some room. I look up. It's a girl with flowing hair. You're the legend, huh? Fight me. Before I can blink, Teamer whacks her upside the head. The truth slammed into me. Sonya was his flesh and blood. I just stared, paralyzed. You're positive the DNA matches? He told me to stop playing. If that loser can father a child, why can't a legend like me? I turned toward the girl, my stomach knotting. I activated my insight and the world turned to ice. Her growth potential defied logic. That physical burst trait, it spikes her power by 40%. I held my breath. Aside from one monster I used to know, her metrics were haunting. She's already shattered milestones that take seasoned pros 30 years to even touch. Reaching her peak would put her in the same league as freaks like Nathan. I approached. What's your specialty? Frontline tank, she snapped. I eyed her stature and grinned. Word is you want a piece of me. Suit up. Let's see it. We synced into the simulator, appearing on the blood-soaked floor. She carried a massive pike and a reinforced tactical shield. In her stance, I saw a shadow of my younger self. She let out a scream and launched that spear. It was a blur, aiming straight for my skull. I tilted my head, just barely feeling the draft. The weapon hissed past. From that velocity alone, I knew she'd triggered her internal surge. Her base power sits at 72, hitting 101 when boosted. That's fatal, even without proper form. 0 time to think, she charged. Her spear tip peppered me like a rapid-fire rifle. I wove through the steel, reading her pulse. Her maximum ceiling? 87. With her buff, she's striking at 122. It's madness, yet her basics are airtight. I had the data. It was time to show her what separates a rookie from a phantom. I deflected her strike and lunged. My blade became a flash of light at her throat. She choked, scrambling backward. She chose flight over holding the defensive line. Her guarding is pathetic, predictable. Most tanks just pray the steel holds while they cower. I carry my own shield for two very precise, very tactical reasons. Two, mine. I use elite-level reading to neutralize every attack before it even connects. Two, I'm honest about my limits. I'm fast as hell, but I lack bone-crushing strength. My gear isn't the deadliest on paper, but it's the only one that mirrors my spirit. But for her, this defensive playstyle is a slow suicide. She has power to burn and elite speed, yet she's hiding in a shell. Forcing her into heavy armor is an insult. She's literally strangling her own talent. I was conflicted. Forge a fortress or a weapon? That's a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, I had to humble her. I became a shadow as I closed the gap. I slammed my spear into her guard. She tried to turtle up, but she was dreaming. A single impact sent her buckler spinning into the far corners of the arena. I snatched her balance right out from under her. She hit the ground face first. The chaos died. My fist stopped centimeters from her nose. I hadn't even worked up a sweat. Trapped and broken, I gave her a merciless smile. I held back at the end, kid. Match finished. I was actually disturbed. Is that the garbage your father taught you? She admitted her father demanded the shield to contain her energy. She'd always idolized my technique. I explained my dual wielding is about equilibrium distributing force to maintain flow. It ensures I'm nimble, allowing me to strike or disappear in a split second. But her strength is so massive that the shield acts like a ball and chain. She's too rigid to transition between defense and the kill. This gear is ruining you, I said. Lose the junk. Grab a second spear and unleash the hurricane inside you. Before I could finish, she turned away. A sharp, icy no. My blood boiled. The sheer nerve of the brat. My partner intervened before I lost my cool. He spent 30 months managing my temper. He hauled me away before I leveled the place. Her no was a given. I just couldn't read her silence. She saw me as a god. My blade was her obsession. Then reality kicked in. What now? Timur groaned, bleeding. She'd lived in my shadow for 10 years. I couldn't break that. I froze. She hit this level in just a decade? She's a gold mine, I thought, hiding my greed. I grabbed her shoulders. I'm taking over your career, Sonia. Come across the pond with me. Behind me, Bekalian is losing it. I'm poaching her. Shab snaps, but she stops him. Word is the big leagues have been headhunting me for a while now. If I bail, she's stuck. Unless she uses her old man's connections. That cold no forced me to scrap my entire playbook. She's a blue-chip asset. A $100 million trade clears my slate. But if I train her right, she pulls that every single year. I'm all in. I'm ditching the Bald brothers. If I walk, she's my shadow. A grin finally touched her lips. Deal. Just don't break my heart. She followed me, but Bekalian bailed for Country B on some fake emergency. Professional jealousy? Or a real fire to put out? Hard to say. Her dad is spiraling. Thinks she's been snatched. I don't give a damn. I'm obsessed with honing her edge. I hired Blanco, the best coach alive. By my rules, she faced the coach. In the sim, she asked which beast I'd slain. I said Zarbon. She told the trainer, bring me that same demon. She prepped with icy focus before stalking the digital monster. The beast radiated pure death, but she was stone. Then, the laser. The ground vanished. As smoke cleared, a massive scar split the deck. But Sarbon sensed her. It looked up to see her already diving, spear first. A flash of lethal light. The monster died before it could even blink. A roar, then silence. Sarbon is gone. Blanco is just staring into space. The test ends. She's hungry for my praise, I told her. Stay humble. I could do that in my sleep. Now, obey Blanco for 30 days. That's her ticket to the top. She looked bitter. You said you'd train me. Why pawn me off? I told her to suck it up. I'm busy, but watching. Blanco is just my stand-in when I'm gone. Honestly, as a pro, the guy might actually be better than me. I promised she'd own the opener in 4 weeks. Time flew by. Kickoff. My squad versus CBC. A bunch of battle-hardened egos. Before the whistle, our new lineup had the stadium buzzing. 4 new aces were on the screen. I built this machine in 1 month. We had 3 tanks, 4 hitters, 3 snipers, and 1 medic. But those roles? Pure decoys. The sniper brawls. The tank becomes the blade instantly. And Jihoon, a born killer, plays the support role perfectly. This war machine adapts to anything, from dungeons to bloodbaths. To fix our range, I signed the heavy hitter, Shim Yong-soo. No genius, but his raw power makes him a human artillery battery. Looking at my creation, I smirked at the coach. Feeling lucky? You gotta respect Yeop's knack for spotting potential. He knew exactly how dangerous Seo could be with the right steel. Ditching that shield for a spear changed everything, and in 30 days, her skill level just absolutely skyrocketed. See, once you hit the ceiling, even a tiny bit of improvement feels like climbing a whole damn mountain. As a frontline scrapper, she just clicked, morphing into a beast at a pace that caught us all off guard. Sana is clueless. Yeop burned 72 hours straight just convincing her to make that switch. Sana could only marvel at her. This kind of insane development hasn't happened since Nathan first showed up. Fans were screaming as the match started, yet Sana sat there in total silence, not barking a single order. He let the rookies take the wheel, acting like the victory was already in the bag. We were in the Warriors' graveyard, this massive upside-down stone pyramid dug way into the earth. You drop in at the top and slaughter your way down to the monster in the basement. We were busy ducking cursed trees that tried to slice us up with sharp branches and serrated leaves. Then you got the mist creepy little eyeballs that burrow into your brain and drive you like a puppet. Looking at the screen, Yeop seemed haunted, like he was back in the trenches flying blind during those old wars. We had zero info back then, and I saw one of my boys get hit by a mist parasite. That bug eats your soul for 60 seconds before your body isn't yours anymore. Once I noticed what was happening, the damage was done, so I put him down right then and there. Honestly, he is lucky I was there to give him a clean death instead of letting him suffer. The way Yeop told that without blinking gave me the absolute chills. Then Yeop barked my name and pointed the situation on the monitors was going south fast. Both teams were clearing the second floor, but CBC sent 5 guys to kill Laya's momentum. They sprinted through the monsters just so Lena would not take all the credit. Too bad they were focused on the wrong target. Lena was never the one they should have feared. The real show was Sia and her tank, Choi Huck, though the big man seemed pretty twitchy about it. SEBC is one of the top 5 teams in the game, and they are not pushovers. Facing 5 pro players with only 2 people felt like a death sentence to Choi Huck. When the light turned green, they moved, and Choi Huck crashed into their line like a human brick wall. 3 enemies blew past the tank and rushed Sia like a bunch of hungry wolves. She did not flinch. She just reached back for 2 spears, stone cold and ready for blood. With Yeop's specialized gear, she shut down their entire push before they could even land a hit. It terrified them when they saw the 3rd blade being handled entirely by her foot. While they were frozen in shock, Sia turned into a blur of steel. A hurricane of strikes broke out, sending all 3 attackers flying into the mud. "Who is this girl?" they choked out, stumbling back from the force of her blows. Before they could blink, Sia spun and threw a spear on a deadly line toward Choi Huck's fight. The dude attacking our tank never saw the spear coming before it sank deep into his leg. He let out a yell, and then a shadow appeared behind him, finishing him off with a quick blade. Yunbom closed the deal, and the guys in the commentary booth were left speechless. Rather than stealing the spotlight, Sia handed over a perfect kill to her teammate. Before the corpse fell, Sia was grabbing another spear, her eyes already zeroed in on her next victim. The spear screamed through the air, heading straight for the center of his chest. She sprinted right after the throw, closing the gap fast while the poor guy tried to block. He tried to time his parry, but Sia came out of nowhere like a phantom. She grabbed the spear right out of the air and used that momentum to crush him. She drove the weight down hard, making him panic as his own blade almost snapped. Sia was a total wrecking ball, her every hit shredding through his defense like wet paper. I bury my blade deep into the dirt before that rookie can even catch his breath. Concrete shatters like glass beneath the impact, and my mark narrowly avoids the flying shrapnel. He lunges for a breath, panic setting in as he watches my staff coil like a spring. I vault off the tension, splitting him down the middle before he even realizes he is dead. A cold stare back tells the story. The real slaughter is only just beginning. I am a streak of shadow as I crush the next guy, the shockwave launching him backward. No mercy. In a literal flash, his chest is turned into a pincushion. He is a total wreck. From the sidelines, Joe watches the massacre with his mouth hanging wide open. We were supposed to play defense, but I have turned this place into a total powder keg. He snaps an order to row, telling the squad to forget the loot and focus. This is the clean sweep. Watching the stream, Seo Mun Yeop suddenly forgets how to breathe. My stats are spiking mid-fight, jumping up by 1 whole unit. Gaining levels in the heat of battle is rare, let alone during your very first scrap. Each takedown feels like pure electricity. For once, the madness feels right. I figured Sean had lost his marbles when he told me to lead the charge. This rush is addictive, yet his advice keeps playing on a loop in my mind. He warned me that being a glory hound at the team's expense is the worst mistake. Squad first, ego second. That realization makes me spin around to check on Chuck. He is getting buried. I abandon my target and gun it toward him, yelling for cover. He hits the deck, and I vault off his shoulders right into the thick of it. His attacker was blindsided, feeling nothing but the bite of my cold blade. The whole team swarms in, ending the game before the other side even knew what hit them. It is a masterclass in how much damage you can do with perfect fundamentals. Watching me dominate the feed, a smug little smile creeps across Seaman's face. I caught her potential early, but she did not just deliver. She blew the roof off. Game over, and Shimyong ducks into the bathroom to doom scroll the message boards. It is a digital massacre, with every hater out there ripping his name to pieces. Since he choked on the big stage, he has been the internet's favorite punching bag. A win changes nothing for them. He is still a yellow belly in their eyes. He is about to snap. Those losers do not know Jack. But suddenly, voices from outside make him freeze. A couple of opponents are talking trash right outside. That was the last nail in the coffin. He flies out of the stall looking for a fight, but those jerks do not even blink. They double down on the trash talk, trying to goad him into something stupid. They are fishing for a suspension-worthy outburst when another door creaks wide. Shim Yong freezes mid-step as Seo Mun Yeop steps out into the light. He has heard every single word, but he is way too smart to fall for their crap. He spots the bait instantly, and the two loudmouths go ghost white as he walks up. Shocker, he grabs Shim Yong and tells him to say sorry for being disrespectful. You could hear a pin drop. No one gets why he is taking the other team's side. Don't hand them ammunition. They are just dying for you to lose your cool. You really think they were shouting by mistake? They were performing for you. He squeezes out an apology and then plasters on a fake grin to kill them with kindness. He settles the score before dragging his teammate off. The play is obvious. Don't let them control the story. He knew it was a hit job and shut it down. Right at the door, he throws one last look at those two that could freeze hell over. Luck was on my side today. The captain decided my latest screw-up did not warrant the boot just yet. He basically told me to watch my step before turning his back and disappearing. The claw marks left in the doorframe were his final warning while Ro Jong-han rallied the troops. This mission is Sonya's big trial, but I have to keep my head on a swivel in the ant nest. Rumor has it some underground lab accidents turned the local bugs into literal fuel for nightmares. Their queen hides in the depths, ready to summon a swarm with a single mental shriek if you stray too close. There are no easy ways out here. We have to wipe every last one of those monstrosities off the map. While Ro Jong-han outlines the strategy, my thoughts are elsewhere, fueled by nothing but pure spite. Even after that tense bathroom confrontation, my grudge against those ABC bastards is still eating me alive. Their arrogance feels like a slap in the face, and then the timer hits 0, it is go time. I just hope I can stay focused while my internal rage is screaming for some payback. Second round starts, and Sia is leading our 5-man front right into the thick of the swarm. Ro Jong-han is at the back, just shredding everything. We are moving through these bugs like a hot knife through butter. Once we clear the first perimeter, though, the team realizes I have completely vanished from the grid. I use the fog of war to slip away, deciding to handle this little vendetta on my own terms. I am desperate to put those SEBC jerks in their place while Ro Jong-han is absolutely spamming my radio. I just kill the volume and block him out, knowing he is probably having a total meltdown right now. This is full-blown insubordination, and I know I will have hell to pay when the dust settles. 10 minutes later, I reach the objective. But something is off. There are only SEBC players in sight. My squad is missing in action, even though Sia was supposed to have this sector locked down tight. I was counting on a meat shield. Without a front line, I am just a glass cannon waiting to get shattered. My plan is falling apart, but I am not backing down, so I start launching fireballs like there is no tomorrow. I put everything into my ultimate, but as the smoke clears, the enemy is still standing, completely unscathed. Their captain just laughs at me, a sound that hits harder than any physical blow ever could. They knew I would come looking for a fight. Then a swarm of arrows rains down, and my world collapses. My heart sinks as the shame washes over me. I have never felt like such a pathetic amateur in my life. I try to scramble away, but they are already on me, and suddenly one of them is right in my personal space. Whatever, if I am going out, I am taking as many of these guys with me as I can. I try to pull the trigger, but nothing happens. That is when the panic sets in. My cooldown is not up. My primary blast only has 5 shots with a 150-second wait. I am a sitting duck. I never burned through my reserves this fast in training, but I lost track of time and now I am face down. The SEBC guys are just looming over me, mocking the big dumb fish they finally managed to hook. Then the overhead speakers announce Sonya's first kill, and the whole group just freezes in their tracks. Sonya is standing right there, looking like a stone-cold killer with her spear ready to strike. Before I can even process it, a hand grabs me by the shirt and hauls me back into the darkness. The SEBC squad is left staring at thin air, wondering if they just got baited into a master trap. Jo Sun-ho drags me into a corner, explaining the plan was always to secure the zone before I showed up. Turns out, Simon had already warned the entire team about exactly how I was going to behave. He knew I would go rogue like a typical hothead, so Joe and the rest were just waiting for me to fail. They even kept a bug alive to hold the tunnel together. I am just standing there, feeling like a total idiot. It finally clicks. Simon anticipated every single move I made, and I walked right into his hands. Joe says reinforcements are coming and it is time to bail, but I am not ready to play nice yet. I am not waiting for backup. I am already dragging myself back toward the fight to finish what I started. You think you have got me all figured out, Simon? You think one explosion is my only trick? I am about to prove you wrong by unleashing a power that has nothing to do with fire. I watch him cast the snare. Ghostly iron snakes out, locking down the rookie in Sonya's path. Xenia pounces. Her spear vanishes into a silver streak, skewering both marks in one ruthless fluid strike. A smirk creeps across my face. Sana's floored. The kids finally learned how to play for the crest. It is finally starting. Sue, usually a spotlight hog, actually shared the glory. My speech finally cracked through that thick skull of his. I offer a silent nod, flicking on my lens to pull up Sue's latest combat stats. His concentration is flat, but every other metric is absolutely redlining right now. His strength will peak soon, but I doubt his tactical brain will ever keep the pace. Don't mistake this for empathy. I am definitely not running some kind of nonprofit here. I'm grooming him for trade. Once he's prime, I'll swap him for a legitimate world-class veteran. The rounds blur. Sue creates the openings, and Zia shuts the door with cold, surgical precision. Round 2 ends instantly. No question about it. My centerpiece is the most lethal predator on the turf. Sue's grinning, desperate for my nod. He thinks he's arrived. To me, he's just another digit on a spreadsheet. After Sonya, Min is the real threat. His knack for sniffing out a fatal weakness is pure genius. The other boys, Jin and Young, are holding down their positions well enough for now. These new recruits are crushing it. This organization is finally becoming the juggernaut I saw in my head. Down on the turf, the kid stares up at me with eyes full of pathetic, desperate gratitude. If I hadn't pulled him from the trash, he'd still be wasting away in some neon-lit gaming den. Playoffs begin. I ask Sana who we're gutting next. When she mentions Twin Star, my chest tightens. That's where Hugh was caged. I had to use my fist to buy his freedom from that greedy owner. I got him cheap, but the way that Snake tried to bury me still makes my skin crawl. I grill Sana on their stats. She claims they're our biggest wall, even though our squad is finally solid. It'll be hard, but being just hard isn't good enough for me. I'm entering the game myself. I need a punching bag to bleed off some of this rage. Sana gives me that look. She thinks I'm petty. Maybe so, but with me playing, they're already ghosts. I barely hit the hall after the win before Jiho corners me, shaking, asking where the Zadron seed is. I slide the vial out of my pocket like it's just a pack of cinnamon gum. Jiho goes white, realizing I had it all day. One mistake, and I could have nuked the city. I tell him to breathe. A little global disaster might actually make life exciting for a change. He drops the fight. He just pleads with me to keep the damn thing under heavy lock. The guild called. They are sending an official and promising a payout I simply cannot turn down. I squint. If the cash wasn't so heavy, I'd never trust those paper pushers with a secret like this. To be fair, the dungeon's instability isn't what keeps me up at night. It's the guild's founder. Their tech and logic are far too flawless. It's genuinely disturbing to me. This level of complexity is totally without precedent. Only a survivor could craft something this visceral. While I'm overthinking that, the doorbell rings through the house. Jiho walks toward the entryway, grumbling about people visiting at this hour. He flinches as a pale, hollow face emerges. Sorry for the time, the man croaks. I'm Petro Anella. I have arrived for the guild to take that Zadron seed off your hands right now.